Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of
I Will Say This, Though.
I remember the name that time. Great.
This will be the most exciting episode yet.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the history of a country that isn't even our own.
So, fun fact, this January has been a very important month for me. It's my birthday. Hasn't been my birthday as of us recording this, but
It's coming up very soon.
It's coming up very soon. And also, I got married.
Jimmy got married.
I got married to an amazing woman.
She's cool. I like her. I approve.
Yes, we're all very happy, and my amazing wife, allowed me to come over to Danny's, which I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful. She doesn't usually let me out of the cage that she keeps me in, but anyways, so I'm here.
Hey man, whatever you guys do behind closed doors, consenting, your business. But I don't need to know all of this.
Yeah, well. Yeah, she sees how much time I spend at Danny's place recording YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
And she's been kind of understandably suspicious in her
Fair enough.
But anyways, so
we can show her like the actual YouTube videos as proof that no, really, this is
exactly.
what we're doing.
Yeah. But so because that it's my birth month and I got married. We decided to do
This episode is a present for Jimmy.
Yes, it's a me-centric present. So, the thing about me is I'm a bit of an American president nerd for some reason. I don't know why.
For a Canadian, that is an unusual thing to be.
I'm a Chinese Canadian, but for some reason, I don't know. It's just because I feel like they have even the presidents, they have such an impact on history that can't really be said of most other world leaders. You
can do caricatures of Nixon, you can do your Reagan impression, but who knows? Have you ever seen a joke about Sir Charles Tupper?
No. Yeah.
Or I actually know the only joke about John Diefenbaker that anyone has ever made, and he made it.
Yeah. Do you want to say it?
So in the town of Carp, Ontario, not far from where I grew up, they decided would be a perfect place to build a big old fallout shelter during the Diefenbaker administration, because they were worried that if Ottawa got nuked, which was a possibility at the time, they needed a place that was within driving distance where the Prime Minister and other important people could quickly flee to, but was far enough that it would be outside the blast radius. So they decided that Carp, Ontario was the perfect place for it. And what did Prime Minister... There, I did it. I said President by mistake. What did Prime Minister Diefenbaker call his fallout shelter, Jimmy?
What?
The Diefenbunker.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking carp. I was trying to find out a fish pun, but no, that's the Diefenbunker.
It's a museum now. I've been on tours of it. It's cool. It's if you're ever in Carp, Ontario.
If you're ever in Carp, Ontario.
Good restaurants in that town, too.
Yeah.
Good ice cream.
So because, each of these, 45 men, all men, mostly white men, of course, really do little things that impact the rest of history for really the rest of the world, honestly, if we're being honest.
Pop culture.
And pop culture
remembered.
Too. Yeah. They we want to talk about how they influenced us, but more specifically how they influenced me, Jimmy. Because it's it's my birth month. Yes, me personally. So this is what this is. This is
not about how good they were as presidents or even as human beings overall.
This is not about how good they were, this is only about how did they affect me personally. Me, Jimmy, a Chinese Canadian living in Toronto in the year 2023.
Also, a quick point I want to make. A moment ago, you said 45 men. People at home may be wondering how can that be if Biden is the 46th president. Mm-hmm. And that is, of course, because we will only be counting Grover Cleveland once.
Yes. We're not gonna count his first term and his second non-consecutive term.
Although that would be funny if we did.
It'd be funny. We would have, but
it'd be too much hassle.
This tier only has 45 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of presidents to go through. And by the way, we also have this Wikipedia page open just in case we don't know if we want to do some quick research about them. We're just kind of winging it, kind of going through with my knowledge I already have and Wikipedia here. And first up, we have George Washington. So, this might sound as kind of a cop-out, but maybe we should put George Washington, like, wait until the end to rank him, because
Yeah.
really it's going to be like
He's taking responsibility for everyone
everything that
since.
comes. So we have to like first find out if all these subsequent presidents were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, does that make sense? But we will say, I'll just say this, we'll pin this at the top, that what I know from George Washington, other than of course, founding the country of America.
Owned human beings.
Yeah, well, once again, remember,
Committed genocide on multiple occasions.
Yes, of course. We're only talking about, but like, here's the thing.
But that's not what we're talking about
I was
today.
not an enslaved person, and I'm a Chinese Canadian. I'm not going to pretend that, like, I suffered through the same sort of systemic racism that, a black person in America would face.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what this video is about. This is just a video about how they affected me personally.
All right.
So we're
So
just gonna
ranking
leak
someone
here.
high on this is not an endorsement.
Yeah, ranking someone high on this is not an endorsement.
All right, so we'll come back to Washi.
So next is John Adams.
Yeah, what did he do?
What did John Adams do? Okay.
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm not laughing because I'm not
He was
laughing at
with
you.
the Federalist
I'm
Party.
just what did John Adams do?
I know he was the second one.
He was okay. So let's see. So I'm in Canada. So
Let's start with Canada.
What did he do? Okay, so Canada.
There wasn't a Canada yet. There
Oh
was
yeah,
British North America.
British North.
And I'm guessing not great. All right, ambassador to the Dutch.
Ambassador to the Dutch.
Neither of us are Dutch, though, so...
Increase
I
American.
think I have a tiny bit of Dutch in me, but not enough that it really matters.
That's true.
He didn't get along with Franklin. That's a point in his favor.
Didn't get along with Franklin. Viewed the
Frequently clashed.
Franco-American alliance pessimistically.
All right.
Did that affect anything with Quebec or anything? But then again, Quebec doesn't affect me because I don't live in Quebec.
And Quebec,
I mean,
Quebec doesn't really like France, and vice versa, so...
yeah. Also, like, I guess, I don't know, if we're talking about Quebec, maybe it's like, oh, well, I had to learn French because of Quebec, but, like, are we going to say that something in, like, John Adams affected the creation of Quebec?
What year is the Battle of the Plains of Abraham?
Let's look this up.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. So, what happens with France by the time of the Adams presidency doesn't affect Quebec anyway, because it's now outside of French jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
It is now part of British North America by this point. Even if most of the people there speak French, they have been violently wrestled from France, and honestly, France didn't fight very hard for them, and a lot of Quebecois people feel betrayed by France in general, so, okay, historically, so whatever happens with France has no impact on us now.
Okay, thank
On
you,
Canada.
Danny. See, Danny before this, Danny was like, oh, I don't know enough to do this. But no, clearly he knows, like, a lot to help out.
I know,
Especially, like, Canadian history.
I know a bit of that.
Yeah.
I know important events, but I don't know much about these individual...
So I'm going to
Guys.
put him on no effect. Well, I guess...
Are we limiting it to things they did as president?
No,
or...
we're not.
Okay.
I think that's too... Because, like, this is, like, very, like...
In that
tenuous
case, I
connections
think we
to
should
me.
give Washington a very low ranking because that was my favorite cherry tree.
That's funny, although that was a myth. But,
I know.
so after Adams was Thomas Jefferson. Yes. So Jefferson, once again, bad person.
In many ways.
Yes, but, I was not the slaves that he
Pretty good
impregnated.
architect. I don't know if you've ever been to Monticello.
I have not.
It's this like mansion he designed in Virginia. It's nice.
I will-
I haven't been personally.
I will say this. I know that Thomas Jefferson was influential in sort of the separating church and state in America.
Yes, he was, and that's a good thing.
But how does that affect me in Canada? Because Canada is also pretty well, not as secular as America, ironically, because like we still have like publicly funded Catholic
Legally,
schools.
we are less secular, but culturally, we're a lot
Yeah.
more secular.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
But like
We don't have a large swath of our electorate convinced that the biblical apocalypse is going to happen in the next 8 minutes.
But that's not. I guess. But I guess my question is like, from your knowledge, Danny, if you know, Canada's like stance on secularism, was that influenced by the Americans?
I would say probably not officially, but unofficially, yes, almost certainly.
Okay.
And the American, the expectation of, at least on paper, of secularism and the separation of church and state, I would say culturally has had a huge impact on probably most of the world, and definitely us, their nearest, mostly English-speaking neighbor.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty I think that's enough for me to put Thomas Jefferson into benefited me.
I guess so.
Like me as someone who, does not belong to a religion and can live like, comfortably in Canada. I think that because Thomas Jefferson's like separating church and state thing that he put in America, I think that it did benefit me to an extent.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
In spite of his
In spite
horrifying personal life.
In spite of his horrifying personal life. Okay, so after Thomas Jefferson, it was 1, 2, 3,
Madison?
4. Yeah, Madison. Oh, where's Madison? There's Madison.
Even more horrifying personal life. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
But also Madison, War of 1812.
Yes.
Canada
Gave us a lot to brag about.
Yeah,
Because we
burnt
kicked
down.
their asses and burnt down the White House.
Yes, which and
We didn't burn it down. We just burnt it.
yeah, but like you could say that influenced the creation of Canada, right?
Probably did.
Without-
I just saw an exhibit about the War of 1812. I was at the War Museum in Ottawa earlier this month, and that definitely was a big has definitely been a huge element of our national identity in the War of 1812, and that time that we made America cry like a bunch of children.
That's true, but also like. Okay, I guess. Okay, so I guess going forward, we're going to assume that things that help the creation of Canada, the country that I live in, count as a benefit. Because
that is a big assumption.
Despite,
isn't it?
well, because Canada obviously hasn't been great to certain groups of people.
That is undeniably true.
But I'm not going to pretend to be in one of them.
Well, we have not always been very nice to Chinese people.
Yeah, but not to me personally. You know what I mean? Like yeah. So like, and also because like if the War of 1812 didn't happen, I think that what would have happened was like it might have opened up the land that is now Canada more at risk of being taken over by the States. Would you say? Because I feel like that's the way.
Well, the thing is, by 1812, the Americans haven't really expanded westward past. I don't know if they're past Appalachia yet.
I mean, they got Louisiana and Jefferson.
Yes, that's true, but they don't have much of the interior, and I don't think we do yet either.
Okay.
I don't think we might have a bit in Manitoba, but a lot of it is has yet to be stolen from the native people by this point. In fact, the War of 1812 kind of opens.
Yeah.
Like after the War of 1812 is when westward expansion really starts,
Yeah.
and native people get really screwed over.
Yes.
And I would be lying if I said that we weren't, as citizens of Canada right now, we were not beneficiaries of this horrible act of not global, but continental conquest.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think unfortunately I have to put him in benefit of me because like I do benefit from I benefit from colonialism.
I'm afraid
I feel like we all do. Like
I mean, we're here in this country
we're
right
here in
now,
this country,
a colonial country.
Using our high-tech microphones.
This
and
episode
stuff.
was supposed to be fun, but it got really heavy.
Yeah, but
Also, I think we should establish, because we're using the reaction against Madison and his failure in the war as a benefit, that kind of sets an interesting precedent where if the president tried to do something and failed, and the backlash against them still counts as benefit or inconvenience or what have you, which will be interesting when we get to Nixon.
This is going to be really interesting when we get to like the later ones, the ones who are closer to like our lifetimes.
Yeah,
because that's going to get real controversial. Okay, so after what's his name, Madison, we have Monroe.
Yeah.
So
tell me a little about
Monroe.
him.
What I know about him in terms of like, so his whole thing was what he's mostly remembered for is the Monroe Doctrine, which is basically like, oh, Europeans can't colonize America, as only we can colonize.
And it's like the whole Americas,
something like that,
north and south.
I think that's what it is. Let me just double check. And
he also is important in the foundation of Liberia.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Whose capital city to this day is called Monrovia.
Which I am not Liberian, so effects on Canada. We don't have to read much. In 1902, Canadian Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier acknowledged that Monroe was essential to his country's protection.
All right.
The document was a de facto security guarantee by the United States, the U.S. Navy, and the Pacific, and the British Navy made invading North America almost impossible. Because of the peaceful relations between the two countries, Canada could assist Britain in a European war without having to defend itself. Okay, so I guess
yes, I see that absolutely. Now that Napoleon is he out of the picture by this point? Because the War of 1812 is kind of part of the Napoleonic
Yeah.
War, and the Monroe Doctrine, I would say, is probably partly a reaction to the extent to which America was getting pulled into the Napoleonic War.
Yeah.
And that would not be a complicating factor in future if/when Canada sends troops to Europe to help Britain, that America theoretically would not pounce upon that as an opportunity to take us from Europe, because we're not Canada yet.
Yes.
Important to remember.
Yeah, so once again, Danny said he didn't know anything, but he clearly knows a lot.
I don't know presidents, I know
gonna,
history.
I'm going to put him
guess
into
so.
benefited me. Because
Yeah.
I think just from this one line from Wilfrid Laurier, I think, yeah, because like we already established that what's good for Canada is good for me. Not good for a lot of people, but good for me specifically. So, after
Yeah, that's fair. Who's
after
next?
him, I think it was John Quincy Adams. Yeah, John Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams, I don't think he did much.
Oh, there was that TV show where he'd tell ghost stories and make bad puns.
I don't get it.
They had, like, the mummified corpse of John Quincy Adams, and he'd go like,
Welcome, kiddies. Here's a tale that will surely spook your blood.
Wait. Are you saying he's the Crypt Keeper?
Yes,
Because
that's
let me tell
exactly
you-
the joke I'm
No.
making.
Listen.
Look at him.
John,
Tell me he's not the Crypt
No,
Keeper.
listen. Tangent. John Quincy Adams in American history was not the Crypt. You know who was? Henry Clay. Let me show you this motherfucker. Henry Clay. Look at this
Okay.
guy. This guy is the Crypt Keeper. He ran for president so many times, never won.
he's the vault keeper.
He's no
Different character.
During his ambassador to Britain, began negotiations, agreed to
Treaty of Ghent? Okay, that's important.
negotiating the Treaty of 1818, which defined the Canada-United States area west of the Great Lakes.
We've ranked a lot of people as benefiting us either in their friendliness to Canada or their failed belligerence to Canada. To what will eventually become Canada.
I guess this must.
It's amazing how much the Bay used to own. They were an
Yeah.
absolute superpower. Now they're a department store.
He helped with defining the Canada-United States border west of the Great Lakes, right?
Okay, didn't
I guess just like these three, or just like these two, like we have to put him into because he. Okay, I guess I have to put him here.
I guess.
Put him here. Benefited me. After okay. Oh, now it's fucking Andrew Jackson. Okay.
Alright, I know he's considered to be a total bastard.
Total bastard. What I know he did that was like good that people remember him for was like getting a surplus or something, but that doesn't affect Canada.
Yeah, who cares? Oh, good, you made a
But
surplus.
also,
good for you.
Also, what he Trail of Tears.
That's him, yeah.
But like, how did that affect? I know this is like I sound so terrible. How did that affect me?
though.
Let's see.
Trail of Tears was awful and horrifying, but I don't
Yeah.
think it affects us personally that much.
Okay, well, what about his like foreign policy? Like, did he?
Yeah. I think foreign policy is inevitably what we're going to be focusing on a lot here. He served in the War of 1812,
Yeah, but that doesn't. I don't know if that.
and he lost.
Negotiated treaty agreements. I don't. Okay, he admitted Arkansas and Michigan.
No, that was a mistake.
Well, wait. Okay, but Michigan. So I like
Okay.
Eminem.
You do?
I don't know. I don't know.
I like Electric Six. They're from Detroit. All right. Benefited us by. You notice, and here's the interesting thing about pre-Civil War presidents. He admits two states, one in the north, one in the south.
Yeah, because that's how you
Gotta
balance
hold
that.
the
Yeah.
deadlock. Kick that can down the road.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put him in no effect, honestly. Unless
Yeah.
unless we discover some more information later down the line. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to think too much about Andrew Jackson.
Because the thing is, Detroit and Michigan would exist whether they were states or not.
that's true.
Eminem and Electric Six would exist, and Motown Records would exist without this piece of shit.
Yeah.
Martin Van Buren.
These fucking boring ass motherfuckers. Well, okay. Here, I'll say this.
A lot happened under Van Buren.
Van Buren.
He's a complicated guy.
Van Buren, what did he do? He actually enforced the Trail of Tears.
Did he?
Jackson wrote it, and
I didn't know
it
that.
happened under Van Buren.
Was portrayed by Nigel Hawthorne in the movie Amistad.
Yeah.
Which president was Anthony Hopkins in that movie?
He played Nixon in another movie.
Yes, he did, but in Amistad, he's one of the Adamses, I think, who is now a former president.
Okay, so here's...
For a Welshman, he's played a lot of U.S. presidents.
Van Buren viewed abolitionism as the greatest threat to the nation's unity, which, was kind of true, to be honest. Because the reason why the Civil War happened was because of the threat of abolitionism.
That's the funny thing. He was anti-slavery in some ways, but also anti-abolition.
Yeah.
He was anti-slave trade. He was pro-slavery.
Yeah.
Or at least not anti-slavery.
So Van Buren sent General Winfield Scott to the Canadian-United States border.
Oh, I've heard of him.
For its protection and peace. Scott impressed upon American citizens the need for peaceful resolution, made clear that U.S.
What
government
crisis?
Support.
When are we talking
This
about
is
here?
the
Is this during 18... No, this is 1837.
yeah.
Oh, the Upper Canada Rebellion.
Yeah.
William Lyon Mackenzie. Good stuff. Proclaimed neutrality, so that's a rather forced no effect.
Let's just move past Van Buren.
Alright.
He's a boring.
Big sideburns.
Yeah, big sideburns. After our favorite, William
Henry Harrison?
Yes.
Oh, man, I have strong feelings about that man. I've had bad experiences with pneumonia, but I'm willing to forgive it because it killed him.
I don't know, okay, so we're not just talking about what they do during their presidency. For him, it's nothing.
Die.
But what did he do anything before?
Yeah, killed a lot of native people.
Okay.
He killed Tecumseh,
Yeah.
basically, not personally, but
Okay, but he also so just for fun, just because this is
he was not good for Canada either.
Wait, how so? Wait, sorry. I just want to say my thing first.
All right.
So I heard Tecumseh's curse, which is William Henry Harrison killed Tecumseh. Tecumseh cursed it so that every president born elected on a year that ends in 0 will die. Which was
when?
Die in office.
I mean, every president's gonna die.
Die in office.
Oh.
Which happened which actually happened until John F. Kennedy, which is kind of eerie. But so it's
When was Kennedy elected?
60.
Oh, yeah. You mean he's the last victim of it? Okay.
Yeah, and Ronald Reagan was shot, so he could have died, but then he
Yeah.
survived. So
He is one of 3 presidents to survive being shot in an assassination attempt.
So what we have to think is, so even though I don't believe in curses, maybe it'd be fun to just put him aside and be like, what if he killed these motherfuckers?
Oh,
is that a good
interesting.
thing or a bad thing overall? But also,
So Kennedy would have lived if Harrison hadn't been such a genocidal bastard.
Yeah.
Okay. He also was not good on Canada. I think there was some border conflict. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I learned all this in high school. Yeah, a lot of this is War of 1812 stuff, in fact.
Battle of the Thames.
Yes, Moravian Town.
The British allies. British lost control of southwest Ontario.
I mean, we got it back, but...
I
guess in some ways Canada has benefited from the death of Tecumseh and the falling apart of his Confederacy, which hurts me to say that because I think the world would be a better place if Tecumseh had gotten what he wanted.
Yeah.
But also Canada, being the cruel colonial nation that it is, probably would have killed him sooner or later anyway.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's just... I think...
I'm gonna call inconvenience on this
Yeah.
motherfucker, though.
I'm just gonna leave him here just because I want to explore the idea.
Let's explore the
of
curse.
if he's responsible for the deaths of all the presidents afterwards.
All right.
How does that work? So, and similarly, I'm gonna say John Tyler. So John Tyler's...
I thought that
main
was
thing-
Peter Cushing.
So similarly to Washington, I actually believe that John Tyler is one of the most consequential presidents because what he did was so William Henry Harrison was the first president to die in office, and it wasn't really sure
Yeah, I
what
guess
would
so.
happen. What would happen like after that?
Oh, so Tyler sets the precedent.
Yeah, so
that it
Tyler was like,
the
he was vice president. He was like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm president now. You know, like it was written that, oh yeah, the vice president takes the duties, but it was unclear if that meant like, oh, the vice president takes the duties until they elect a new one. You know what I mean? But he was the one that said no
For the rest of the term.
Yes, for the rest of the eternity, for the rest of the term,
Okay.
I will be president. So
But how does that influence you?
well, no, because that's the thing. I think I want to leave him with George Washington here.
Okay.
And see every time when a vice president took over for
I
a president,
see.
if it's a positive or a negative.
I see. Based on
Yeah.
that precedent.
Yes.
Precedent he sends.
Exactly.
All right.
Yes. Oh, by the way, just while we're on the subject, John Tyler, terrible fucking person. He is the only president,
Well,
U.S.
he
president.
was friends with fucking Harrison, so of course.
Yeah,
he was
but
terrible.
also he was the only U.S. president to have sided with the Confederacy. So he's not like buried.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow, fuck that guy.
Yeah. So
Also, he blew up Alderaan.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, fuck Tyler. After Tyler is Polk.
Polk inspired a excellent "They Might Be Giants" song.
That's true.
And I'm gonna put him under "Pulled Me Out of a Fucking Fire," even though he was really shitty about the Canadian border and
Yeah.
Oregon could have been part of Canada if it hadn't been for this creep. That would have been nice.
Yeah,
but
in all honesty, I'm gonna
sorry,
put,
Oregon.
yeah, yeah. If it wasn't for Polk, we would call Oregon whatever we want because we would.
More British Columbia.
Yeah. So you know, I'm gonna put him in inconvenience me.
But it's such a good song.
He's the first. Well,
It has a saw
it's a good
solo.
song, yeah.
Most of what I know about 19th century American politics, I know from this one song by They Might Be Giants.
After him,
Polk did not seek a second term in office.
that's true.
Quite
Also,
rare.
I just want to say, okay, so what he also did was the one point. Okay, so he got America, California. So could we say that without Polk, we wouldn't have any of the movies? Or
As we've established with Michigan, though, like, it would have
Yeah.
happened one way
That's
or another
true.
without him.
that's true. Also, it could just happen somewhere else.
And if
Or-
we're going to give him credit for California, then that means we have to hold off until we've heard how we feel about Ronald Reagan.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. This is hard because every one of these presidents influenced the presidents after them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, but or maybe like Mexico would start making movies. I don't know.
I mean, they make.
Well, you know
a
what I
ton of
mean.
movies in
Like they would
Mexico.
be like the. I don't know if that would work.
They would have Hollywood.
Yeah, they would have.
But Hollywood,
Assuming that Hollywood would just appear like a
Hollywood-
natural like
Yeah, like-
phenomena.
you've built the Hollywood wonder in a civilization game. Hollywood wasn't remarkable because of its geographical location.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, because like it's a coast, right? Your cities appears on coasts.
Yeah, but the fact that it happened in Hollywood was like there were certainly geographical factors, but whoever it isn't just whoever held that land in such and such a year
Yeah.
would become.
Okay. I guess that's
The-
fair.
It's not just about the land that is a factor, but there's also infrastructural issues and
So after Polk,
Cultural.
after James K. Polk, we have Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor died 6 months. Well, let's just double check to see. I'm
I don't know much about this guy.
He's almost certainly going to be a no effect.
He looks boring. He looks like one of those military leaders who reluctantly became president and then took a nap.
Yeah.
He, despite his unclear political tenets and lack of interest in politics, did I call it?
That's true. No, because what he did was basically the Whigs were like, "Oh, we're gonna put in." So the thing, okay. So I this is not about how it affects me. This is just like what I find interesting. So we the first Whig to win, I believe, was William Henry Harrison. He was like a war hero, right? They were like, "Oh, we're gonna push him as the war hero. He is the war hero. He's fighting for you." They put him in. He dies a month later. Mm-hmm. Gets replaced by John Tyler, who everyone fucking hates because he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. And then James K. Polk wins after that. James K. Polk's a Democrat. After James K. Polk, they're like, "Oh, Zachary Taylor, he's like a war hero. He's gonna come in and fight for you." The man has no political opinions
Yeah.
whatsoever. He's just like the Whigs are like, he can win.
Oh, is he the one who won by mistake? Like he
No.
didn't even want to?
Well, a lot of them didn't want to.
There's someone. I think it's maybe a post Civil War guy who was
Yeah.
just he didn't even campaign, but everyone just voted him in anyway. because he was so
Yeah.
popular. It's either him or one of the Civil War guys.
I'm pretty sure that would be Ulysses S.
I think it might be Grant.
because he was very popular.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Zachary Taylor, and then he dies like less than a year into and gets replaced by Millard Fillmore. And
I
Millard
didn't know
Fillmore
that.
And that was the end of the Whig Party. They're like, oh, well, we tried the exact same plan. It failed twice,
Yeah.
so we can't be a party
No way
anymore.
we could just change our strategy.
So
I wish it were that easy to kill the Republican Party.
I'm gonna put him in no, they were going against the Democrats, and then I think they actually became the Republican Party, whereas it was then.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, so he's here, and then Millard Fillmore.
Had a funny name. That's all I know.
Yes, he looks like Alec Baldwin. And as I was saying to Danny before we started filming, Millard Fillmore, like, America is very weird because it's one of those countries. Well, it could just be like the country where it's like, even though you like one of its least known presidents, which is Millard Fillmore, completely unpopular even in his time, he influenced world history so much by like opening up Japan to trade forcibly.
Yes.
Because Japan was like on super like lockdown. They were like, no, we're cutting ourselves off from the outside world.
Easy to do when you're an island.
Yeah, exactly. And then Millard Fillmore was like, hey, Matthew Perry, which was literally the guy
Ding,
name of
ding,
the...
ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding. Let's get that joke out of the way.
Yeah, who was the name of the Commodore. Hey, Commodore Matthew Perry, go make friends with Japan.
Friends, big air quotes.
Anyways, so like without Millard Fillmore,
Yep.
we wouldn't have Mario, we wouldn't have like anime and all that stuff.
We wouldn't have...
Nintendo.
On the other hand, World War II would have been different. Japan probably would have sat that one out.
Perhaps.
There'd be no Pacific Theater.
But here's the thing, though. I didn't fight in World War II. I mean, like, so like, and also, Nintendo was created before World War II. Nintendo was created in the 1800s.
1890s, I think.
Yeah. So, so I think that because, I play Smash Brothers, I like Nintendo.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to put him in benefit.
There's a lot of great... I am by no means a weeb. I want to be clear. I don't watch anime because it's anime, although there is anime I do think is really good. But man, I love Godzilla. I love Kurosawa.
Yeah.
I love all this stuff. And a lot of the best Japanese art out there is directly inspired by art from other countries. One of Kurosawa's best movies is a Macbeth adaptation. We wouldn't have Godzilla without King Kong. We wouldn't have Mario without Pac-Man.
Yeah.
It's really the beauty of cultural exchange.
Yeah.
And
And we wouldn't have any of that without Millard Fillmore.
I guess not.
The Alec Baldwin-looking mofo. Okay, after Millard Fillmore, we had Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce,
known as Hawkeye to his friends.
yeah, so he shitty person, I think.
I think most of them were shitty people.
Yeah, but I think he signed the Fugitive Slave Act. I think that was him. But then again, here's the thing. I have to just say this. A lot of the things that they did that were
You
shitty.
will say this though?
Yeah, I will say this though. A lot of the shitty things they were doing was just because they didn't want a civil war to happen.
Yeah. He alienated anti-slavery groups by signing the Kansas.
But he
Nebraska
signed the
Act.
Fugitive Slave Act because he wanted to appease the South.
So the Fugitive Slave Act, that is about...
We're enforcing this Fugitive Slave
And that's about returning them to slavery?
Yeah.
Okay, that sucks. That really sucks.
Which is funny because, like, people who, like, defend the South are always, oh, it's about states' rights. But it's like, no, it's not. Because, like, you are, like, making other states, against their will, return slaves to escape slaves to you. So
the Dred Scott
clearly it's
decision
not-
by the Supreme Court literally made there no such thing as free states anymore.
Exactly. So, and I don't know, should we say, like, enslaved people? Let's say enslaved people from now on.
Okay, sure.
So he...
Certainly supported it, and you can make the argument that, like, oh, he was just trying to prevent a war, and, like, of course he was trying to prevent a war, but that's not fucking good enough.
Yeah.
And the war happened.
Yeah.
In the wise words of President Lincoln, the war happened.
Yes.
Or did he say the war came? I can't remember.
Okay, so we're getting into... Okay,
Yeah.
Canada. Here's Canada.
Yes, because we were not enslaved. So
British consuls in the United States sought to enlist Americans for the Crimean War in violation of neutrality laws, and Pierce eventually expelled Minister Crampton and three consuls.
He was right.
The British did not set forth the American case that Britain had violated the... Okay, I don't know. What is this?
Crimean War was such a complete waste of everyone's time. Two cool things came out of that. And one of them is that a bunch of Scotsmen fired their guns really well, and there was a great painting of it. And the other is Florence Nightingale was cool.
So I think what's happening here is he wanted to annex Canada.
Did he now?
But he didn't manage to, I think.
I mean,
Never understood
there
that.
had been attempts.
Well, okay, he also, helped open Japan, even though, Millard Fillmore started that ball. I don't know if I want to count that.
Yeah, or else we're going to be here all day.
Yeah,
'cause every president is going to be...
Yeah, enforcing the laws. Maybe I know I'm in no effect. I can't...
Yeah.
I can't think of...
Seems like a spineless piece of shit, but...
Yeah. And then after him, James Buchanan... speaking of spineless pieces of shit...
Yep, James Buchanan, a moderate. Didn't he did the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo?
Let's see what that is.
He bought a bunch of land from Mexico. So
Okay,
Guadalupe Hidalgo has nothing to do with us, but...
In China, also, I'm Chinese, so maybe I should start looking up China, too. In China...
Around this point in history, yes.
Okay.
He was offered a herd of elephants by the King of Siam.
Okay.
Lincoln declined the offer. That's
So-
funny.
Once again, I think I'm just going to put no effect.
I mean, no effect in general or on you specifically?
On me specifically.
I think both apply.
Yeah, he is considered, the worst because he's... Okay, but here's the thing, though.
Worse than Harding.
Well, yeah, because he, the Civil War, he's often blamed for, the Civil War.
The Civil War was going to happen one way or another.
Yeah,
It should have happened earlier than it did, frankly.
yeah. Okay, but speaking of the Civil War, so Lincoln... Now,
Yeah.
the Civil War happened because of Lincoln's election.
Yeah.
That's
he
what
was
happened, yeah.
he was the spark that set
Yes.
it off.
The Civil War inspired the British colonies in what is now Canada to confederate. Is that would you say that's true?
Probably.
Because 1867, that's when Canada became a thing.
Yeah, the timing works out.
Because I think it was they were afraid of after the Civil War they were going to start expanding northward.
Yeah, and
so then they confederated.
Lincoln also establishes... Lincoln marks the end of these United States and the beginning of the United States,
Yes,
right?
a united... Yeah, exactly.
United Union. And so I would not be at all surprised if Canada, if MacDonald and them, in between swigs of liquor, were occasionally able to get their brains working well enough to say, yeah, we should probably be a little more, just a little more. We're still going to call it confederation.
Yeah.
Not the Confederacy, but it is the same word. A confederation is fundamentally a looser arrangement than a union, but it's still tighter than what they had before.
That's true.
And it's definitely there was this whole wave in the late 19th century of consolidating national borders and national identities and confederating. The other big examples of this, unfortunately, are Germany and Italy, who later become big old fascists. But
Yeah.
there's very much a thing of drawing our borders, and all these disparate city-states will now be, or small regions will now be, one modern nation.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what Canada is hopping on board. And I don't know if it's the American Civil War that launches that, but it certainly reinforces it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we should establish that the Civil War was a good thing for Canada.
I guess so.
And therefore me in the current time that I currently live in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also the Civil War establishes the with all its flaws, the kind of modern capitalist industrial dominance over a more feudalist style of slavery, because all the factories are in the north.
Yeah.
That's why they were never not going to win.
That's true.
They have the factories, they have the industry. The South has plantations.
Yeah.
And that's why, in Gone with the Wind, there's the whole thing about, knights and damsels, and it's very medieval. It's very a gentleman's honor.
So would you say that influenced how Canada's economy is today?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's a very important factor in the Industrial Revolution.
Also, it's like, but the other question is, if we're just talking about how it affected me, would I be happier as a farmer? Am I happy
No.
in this modern world? No?
You would not be happier as a farmer. Farming sucks.
Okay. Well, that's...
Maybe as a pastoralist.
Okay. Well, let's put him in benefit of me. I wouldn't say pull me out of a fucking fire because, like, you know, we don't know, like, you know, if I just were just living in a British colony today, would it really be that, like, that much worse than my current life? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Hard to say.
But I
probably somewhat.
Like,
but...
I do enjoy, you know, like, I think, like, the country of Canada, I like living, has benefited me. So I'll put him in benefit of me.
Okay.
And also, I know we just talked over Lincoln without actually talking about, you know, the abolition of slavery.
Obviously a very, very good thing.
But, you know, as, like, a Canadian, you know, obviously, the abolition of slavery, very good for me. Even though I'm not black, I can't, you know, I'm not going to say, like, oh, you know, that is...
Yeah.
No, of course. Of course,
We both have listened to a lot of music made by black Americans
and
who would not be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, you know, like, even then, like, you know, I want to be very careful how I say this. My life has been made much better from knowing a lot of
I don't
black
want
people,
to live in a world where...
like,
yeah.
a lot of black people, like, you know, friendships and relationships I've had with...
Now, on the other hand, most of them were Canadian.
Yeah, and Canada, you know, freed
didn't
black
have-
people before the American Civil War.
And a lot of black Americans fled slavery to come to Canada.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to judge, but I will say this, just because we're moving on to Andrew Johnson. This might be a weird thing, but, like, so Republicans are always like, oh, you know, we're the Republican Party, we're the ones
Party of Lincoln.
who freed the slaves. Technically speaking, that's not true, because Lincoln, you know, did the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves in the rebelling Southern states. If you read the text, it doesn't free states in all of America, or even America at all. Only the Confederacy, which he wasn't even really, like, leader of.
I know.
So what actually freed slaves in America, the United States, was the 13th Amendment, other than for, you know, imprisoned people, which is a whole other problem.
Yeah.
But that was not signed by Lincoln, because Lincoln was dead. That was signed by Andrew Johnson,
Okay.
who
Good for
was
him.
a Democrat. So even this whole and you know, it's completely unfair because Andrew Johnson sucks.
Yes, he does.
And Lincoln definitely would have signed it if he was alive. But it's just really funny to think that even that the freeing the slaves thing, Republicans don't have that.
Wow.
That was the
I never thought of
Democrats.
that.
But anyways, okay, so Andrew Johnson, I think, was the one who, like, you know, just due to circumstance, not because of he sucked.
Yeah, I don't think we should credit him
Terrible
for that.
person. But
We-
we
I think
kind
we're
of
right.
have to. He
we?
did, yeah, like he sucked.
Because he signed it, but, like, that was a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah,
right? If
but
it's an amendment.
if we're going by presidents,
the
like
first thing they ever got right.
like a lot of the things that these people did
That's
were not they're symbols of their administration.
Okay.
You know, it's not just
and
themselves
we're
as
going
people.
to dispense with the lie that the Supreme Court is an apolitical organization.
yeah.
All right.
So it was weird. I have to put him in benefit of me,
Yes.
or maybe
What else did he do, though, other than that?
I don't know. He didn't. He sucked. He was impeached. Like because he kept vetoing everything. Let me see. Maybe Canada. Did he affect Canada at all? After the loss of the Crimean War, Russians in fear of losing Britain. Okay, well that's all Canada. What about China? I'm from China. Do you affect China at all? Nope. Okay. Yep. That's all we have to go on.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Who's next?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Ulysses S. Grant. My God. It just. I
Weirdo.
love this
Serious
man.
weirdo.
No, listen. Ulysses S. Grant, fucking god tier. I love him so much.
All right,
The
go on.
most underrated. Okay, listen. First of all, of course, won the Civil War. Like, you know, brilliant. Like,
Not good to Native people. Let's take a moment to address that.
But no, here's the thing, though. Of course, he wasn't good to Native people. But
Not
if we're talking relatively, like, basically, here's the thing. His whole, like, thing, his whole viewpoint towards Native people was, like, better than what other people said. Like other people were like, oh, we should kill them. Mm-hmm. He was, and as a Canadian, we know how bad this turned out. But he was like, we should reform them.
Yep, that did not go so well up here.
Didn't go well. Didn't go well here, but still relative.
I guess it's better than actual straight up genocide.
Yeah. But also even then,
for whatever that's worth.
Even then, in terms of I'm not going to pretend that he was a perfect person.
Yeah.
But he always seemed to me as someone who knew that he was flawed. Like for one example was he had I don't remember the exact context, but he was like, oh, I'm kicking all the Jews out of the military.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, very.
Well, that's
shitty.
uncool.
And it was so weird that even Abraham Lincoln was like, hey, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then later in his life, he was like, oh god, that was my biggest regret. I shouldn't have done that. So not a great guy, but he at least knew when he did something wrong.
I guess.
But also he was the guy like you said earlier when he was he was just so popular that they basically made him because he didn't really
even want to be president.
Yeah, because that's the thing about him. He always read to me as a very humble person who, even though he wasn't the smartest or the
good general, very good general.
Good general. Who always made the best decisions. He still did have a moral compass. Since he was a child, his dad, very anti-slavery, taught him to be absolutely hate slavery. I think they lived next to John Brown. You know John Brown?
I do.
Yeah. His
body lies a moldering in its grave.
Yeah. I don't know what that is.
But his truth keeps marching on.
So Ulysses S. Grant, he did own a slave, or he owned an enslaved person one time, but that was because it was a gift from a family member, and then he freed that person.
I give you this gift of a person.
Yeah, and then he freed that person at financial expense to himself. He could have sold that person. He could have worked that person, but he freed that person at financial expense to himself.
That's good.
And then he went on to free the slaves, and then as president, he was like, okay, you know what? The KKK, you guys are a terrorist organization. We're going to jail you without trial. And then he worked so hard
to those guys.
He worked so hard to protect black people in South, the American South.
Okay.
After the Civil War. That
is worth a lot, even if he was not perfect in all respects.
He wouldn't claim to be perfect. That's the thing. That's part of why I respect him. Is that he had a very small ego, and I don't. But then again, in terms of how it affects me, let's see.
I mean, we could certainly carry him on in the same ranking tradition we've got for Lincoln and Johnson of just his importance to civil rights has at least indirectly benefited both of us.
I mean, I guess
they weren't using the term civil rights yet, but
I guess, I mean, okay, so he... Okay, how about this? I enjoyed reading about him.
Okay.
I enjoyed reading about his presidency. I enjoyed reading about his random horse tricks that he would do because he loved horses.
Oh, that's fun.
And he loved animals. I'm going to put him in benefit in me. How about that?
I respect people who can do horse tricks.
Yeah.
I can't.
And, even if he didn't always make the best decisions, he at least owned up to them. Yeah. And he at least, so I'm a benefit in me just on account of being, a guy that I can look up to in history, Okay.
Yeah, all right. That's
cool.
An interesting
now,
figure.
This fucking guy, Rutherford B. Hayes.
Oh, Rutherford
B. Hayes, who basically undid everything Ulysses S. Grant did, who was the fucking election, which was it was so close, mostly because of fraud.
Look at that fucking beard.
Fuck this guy. He was like, okay, please make me president, and in exchange, I will stop Reconstruction in the South. Everything that Ulysses S. Grant was trying to do, I'm stopping it, putting an end to it. And then that led to, Jim Crow and all that shit. That.
All right. Well, fuck him.
But how does it affect me?
Sounds so awful.
Oh god. Probably no effect, to be honest.
I mean, the other big thing is just he was super corrupt in terms of money, but it wasn't our money. It was America's money.
Well, let's see. Let's just do the old was it Canada China test? Canada. Yeah, Canada. He dealt with man defeated boring. Nope, that's it. Okay, and China.
His Indian policy was
unsurprisingly
awful.
His biggest foreign policy concern dealt with China.
All right.
They allowed the Senate had
unrestricted flow of Chinese immigrants.
So the economy secured. Chinese immigrants were blamed in the American West during the Great Railroad Strike. Anti-Chinese riots. Okay, so what did Congress? That's the Chinese inclusion. Vetoed the bill.
Okay.
Should not. I don't know what that means. Now it's in the...
I believe abrogate is to not honor.
Okay, so he tried to stop
The Exclusion
Chinese
Act?
Exclusion Act? I
That's
guess?
cool. I didn't know that.
But, that doesn't
He did suck, but...
affect me. I'm going to put him in no effect.
All right.
He's... Okay.
I've
James-
been watching a TV show about the Exclusion Act in San Francisco, Chinatown.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. The show is called Warrior, if anyone's curious. There's a lot of martial arts and beating people up. It's fun.
James Garfield. Danny's
The
like
best.
favorite.
I love
Danny's
James Garfield.
Yeah.
Like Harrison, he died before he got to do anything, but I believe he would have done a lot of good stuff, and I like what he did before he died.
Yeah. What did he do before he died?
He was another of these great Union generals. Looked a little bit like H. John Benjamin. Oh.
He proved... wait. So if I go to this Wikipedia, am I going to find James Garfield? Oh, hey, it is. Published by...
It's neat. And you know what? My life benefited greatly from the Pythagorean theorem because of a play you directed where I played Pythagoras.
That's true. Honestly, that's true. I'm going to put benefit in it just because of that.
Pulled me out of a fucking fire. My life got so much better because of that play. I made so many good friends.
Okay, so I think what we can notice
Also,
the
he
trend
gave
here-
a commencement speech at Yale in which he encouraged all the graduate, I think it was Yale, to treasure your leisure time, for it is a rare treasure.
That's true.
He was America's most dude president.
So I think that we're beginning to notice a pattern where most of them have benefited me. And I think
Yes.
that's just because I'm someone who, I live a very comfortable life.
Most of history has been.
my parents, even though I'm not white, I'm still Asian, which does have privileges relative to other demographics. So I think that that's where we're learning right now is that all these men, despite the horrible things they did, I have been benefiting from them. But anyways, let's...
And also, the longer ago someone is, the easier it is to see kind of...
Yeah, it's harder to see,
Because all of these are guys who made the world what it is today.
Yeah.
And the world as it is today is a world that is extremely friendly to us,
Yeah,
middle-class, reasonably privileged people.
us, cis male settler people in Canada.
Yeah.
Chester A. Arthur.
Yeah, the main thing I know about him is that he, to everyone's surprise, did not... Oh, he was associated with Roscoe Conkling. That sucks.
He also vetoed the first version of the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act.
All right.
But then he signed a second version, which included a 10-year
All right, that
ban.
sucks.
Okay.
The main thing I know about him is that he refused to make Garfield's assassin the ambassador to France.
Which led to Garfield getting assassinated?
No, this was after the assassination.
Oh, okay.
The guy said, Mr. Arthur, I made you president. Now will you reward me? And Arthur said, no, you're getting executed now.
That's actually really funny.
Yeah, it was Charles Guiteau, who was utterly nuts.
Okay, so so this is he had a fucking birther scandal.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. The family's frequent moves later spawned accusation that Arthur was not a native-born citizen of the United States. Blah, blah, blah. They spread a new rumor that Arthur was born in Canada, which failed to gain credence.
You know who was born in Canada? Ted Cruz. He is a native-born U.S. citizen, though.
Okay, I'm gonna put him in no effect.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's fair. I feel like all the presidents, but after the Civil War and the
Yeah.
they're all kind of boring.
Because the thing about the Chinese Exclusion Act is that, in spite of that, you are here now.
Yeah, so
in Canada, not America.
It's too far back to and in another country. This is the most tenuous tier list.
I know.
We're straining our analytical system. Grover Cleveland. So what I know about Grover Cleveland is he had cancer in his mouth and he had a secret surgery to get rid of it on a boat.
Yes. I read about this.
How does it affect me? Not in the slightest.
He was the only non-consecutive two terms.
He
was my favorite Sesame Street character.
He gave us the Simpsons joke where Grandpa's like, "Oh, I was spanked by Grover Cleveland on two non-consecutive times." I don't know. Let's look this up. What did Grover Cleveland do?
What did he actually do? Other than these fun bits of trivia about him.
Negotiated Joseph overfishing rights in the waters of Canada and struck a necessary note.
All right.
Cleveland also withdrew from Senate consideration of the Berlin Conference Treaty, which guaranteed an open door for U.S. interests in the Congo. No idea what any of that means.
I'm guessing it's something nasty and imperialist. U.S. interests in the Congo is not a promising term, but we're not in the Congo, so it doesn't really affect us, I'm afraid.
Cleveland saw Reconstruction as a failed experiment, was reluctant to use federal power.
Oh, that sucks.
To give, to enforce giving voting rights to African Americans.
That's the other great thing about Garfield, is Garfield was Mr. Reconstruction. He was going to do it right, and then he got shot, and then that piece of shit, Chester, decided not to do it.
Yeah.
If Garfield had lived, America would be a very different place. A much better one.
I think...
Probably.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to...
Where does he stand on immigration? Although Cleveland had condemned the outrages against Chinese Americans, he believed that Chinese immigrants were unwilling to assimilate into white society, blah, blah, blah. When the return of Chinese immigrants who left the United States...
Okay, I feel like we're thinking too hard. I'm just going to put him in no effect.
All right, he does suck, though.
Like, a lot of these people from, like, way behind are going to be no effect.
Yep.
Benjamin Harrison, speaking of... completely forgotten president.
Oh, yeah, the other Harrison.
Oh, God, what is this guy?
He is somehow less memorable than the guy who died immediately.
Included unprecedented economic legislation, including... Sherman
I do like antitrust acts.
Creation of a national forest reserve.
All right, I like that.
But did it? Okay,
I've never been to an American national forest.
But here's the thing: maybe protecting forests, even if it is in another country, affects me because I live in the world.
Yeah,
and I breathe the air from the collective biomass.
Yep.
So that could be good.
Many have praised Harrison's commitment to African Americans' voting rights, but scholars and historians generally rank him in the bottom half among U.S. presidents.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like, yeah. Okay, let's just do Canada.
So far, I think I'm gonna call this benefited, unless I see something surprising, though.
South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Washington, Idaho, and Wyoming. None of those affect me. I guess Washington, because that's where Seattle is.
Yeah.
It gave us iCarly and Frasier.
Grunge music. Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Are we going to do Benefited Me?
Starbucks.
Let's do Benefited Me.
The best TV show of all time was set in Washington State, but he didn't make that show.
Which show?
Twin Peaks.
Okay. Let's do Benefited Me. I feel like...
National Forest. That's a good thing.
Yeah, National Forest. That's a good thing.
Good for Black American voting rights. Like, that's good for everybody.
William McKinley.
I don't like McKinley.
What did he do?
He invaded Cuba.
Okay, so I think...
He did something in the... Yeah, he also invaded the Philippines.
The main thing he did... Wait, let me see China.
Mean imperialist bullshit.
Expanding influence overseas. Which all nations would freely trade with China and none would seek to violate that nation's territorial integrity. McKinley's action set a precedent that led to most of his successors exerting similar independent control over the military. After the rebellion ended, the United States reaffirmed its commitment to the open door policy, which became the basis of American policy towards China. I don't really understand what that means.
I don't know the full context of the Boxer Rebellion, but it seems like he was...
Okay, so they wanted equal trade and investment to guarantee the territorial integrity of China. Okay, I'm going to say that's a good thing.
I guess. I don't like his nasty imperialist policy in the Caribbean and in the Philippines.
But
it's a complete violation of the Monroe Doctrine, of course, to invade the Philippines. And he's the guy who gets America into the Pacific west of the coasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he also
Guam
got
and
Hawaii.
places like that.
And I haven't been to Hawaii, but my parents, went to Hawaii as a vacation, so that got me when I was in high school. That got me, free reign of the house for a few weeks. So, and
have I benefited from William McKinley?
Yeah, I think like as we established, I feel like what we're learning is that we've all benefited from.
This is the check your privilege episode
this
where
is the check your privilege episode.
It's as a catchphrase, it never really meant anything, but now it's finally sinking in.
Yeah. Okay, Teddy Roosevelt.
I played him once in a stage play.
You would make such a good Teddy Roosevelt.
I didn't have a mustache then. I was a teenager.
Right.
It was a play called Arsenic and Old Lace. It's about the digging of the Panama Canal and yellow fever and Cuba.
Driving force for antitrust and progressive policies.
Yeah, that's...
So here's the thing, though.
He was very good domestically, internationally not so much.
Yeah.
He did prevent war between Japan and Russia for a while.
Yeah, he
ended the war.
He ended the war. But also, was that... I was going to say, because I feel like the Russo-Japanese War led to Japan being more aggressive with its militarism.
Possibly.
But also, that's not his fault. He didn't, that wasn't like, he ended, like, he played a part in it, but that wasn't like, I'm not going to...
And if, the thing is, Japan was already doing really well in that war.
Yeah.
He was able to end it. He failed to make a more peaceful Japan, but... given what he had to work with at the time and what the context was at the time, I think he still managed to de-escalate the situation for a while.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to figure out...
how the Panama Canal affected us?
Yeah, but you see, he did that, right? Once again,
he dug it personally.
Yeah, like, it's amazing.
With his teeth.
But seriously, though, like, he is the reason why the two continents are separate.
Yes.
Which is bonkers. Like, think about how much power the American president has.
In Panama, too.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just him. Like, it was an international effort.
But like,
he was definitely the main guy.
But, like, if it wasn't for him, I doubt, like, it would have... Because America was, like, still is. Like,
it was not something Panama was going to do by themselves.
And, I know that, like, it's controversial, like, whether or not it benefited. Probably not. It didn't benefit the people that area.
In some ways, I would... Well, it brought a lot of trade there, but I don't know how equitable that was in terms of, did that just increase the level of economic disparity and oligarchy in Panama? Probably. That's the problem with, in fact, the term Banana Republic was coined, I believe, during the Teddy Roosevelt presidency to refer to the level of basically imperialist control America was taking over a lot of these smaller Caribbean nations.
Yeah.
Running them as colonies.
But I think it did influence increased trade with China and stuff. I guess that's...
I'm sure it did.
Okay, so
it meant you didn't have to sail around fucking Tierra del Fuego.
Yeah, but it benefited me.
Which was a famously bad time.
Also, I'm realizing that none of these have ruined my life. But then again, my life isn't, like, is pretty good.
Well, we'll get there.
Okay, we'll get there. Taft. Okay, Taft, I know, did have
the last president to have facial hair.
Taft was also... He had some sort of relationship with Laurier, I think. Right?
Really? A relationship, you say?
Yeah, here it is. In Taft's annual message, he urged a free trade accord with Canada. Britain at the time still handled Canada's foreign relations.
Yes, he did.
Taft found the British and Canadian governments willing. Many in Canada opposed the accord, feeling the U.S. would dump it when convenient, as it had blah, blah, blah. Or opposed. After talks with Canadian officials in 1911, Taft had the agreement, which is not a treaty. The Parliament of Canada, led by Prime Minister Sir Wilfrid Laurier, had deadlocked over the issue. Canadians
that was something that happened to Laurier a lot.
So he got turned out of office. Okay, so because of Taft, Wilfrid Laurier was replaced with Robert Borden.
Robert Borden gave women the vote. Well, not all women, but was the first prime minister to allow some women to vote in Canada.
But I'm not a woman. Okay. Let's see. Robert Borden was Robert Borden good for me? This is a rabbit hole.
Because was free trade good for you is also a very big and complicated question.
Yeah, we're gonna get to.
There are upsides and downsides to it.
We're gonna have a long time.
I'm inclined to say that overall it's probably for the best, but I'm not sure. It's really complicated.
The pressures of war. Conscription didn't affect me.
Canadian War Museum. That's where I just was reading about the War of 1812.
Okay, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Here's the thing.
The
World War
different
One
parties that don't even exist anymore.
World War One was good for Canada. I feel like in terms of
in some ways,
a national identity.
Yeah, I mean,
more
we lost
separate.
a lot of guys.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect me, Danny.
They were all going to be dead by now anyway.
Yeah, so like I think, I mean, you know, like Laurier would also. Okay, wait. Let me see Robert Borden's thing on
Would
China.
Laurier would not have been able to keep us out of the war. If Canada had sat out that war, that would have been huge, and that would have been good for us, just for not being part of it. However, there was no way we were going to sit out that war because we automatically were drug into it by Britain.
Okay.
And we pretty willingly automatically got drug into World War II. I think by that point we legally could have said no thanks.
By World War One,
both the wars, actually, I'm wrong.
Legislative discrimination surrounded people of Chinese origins living in British Columbia and getting barred from voting. In face of this, many Chinese moved to other provinces where discrimination was common but not systemic. They worked with other Chinese immigrants in labor-intensive settings. By 1940s, virtually every town of any size in Canada had a Chinese restaurant or a hand laundry. So, wait.
Really?
You know what? I'm just going to say benefited me.
And, you know, Taft could not have impacted, he could not have, if we're not going to blame Hirohito on Teddy Roosevelt, then attributing everything that Borden did to Taft also seems a little bit
but also
overreach.
he also did he was also like antitrust, just like
that's cool.
Yeah.
The main thing people know about Taft these days is that he was a gentleman of poundage.
Yes, gentleman of poundage.
And that's all anyone seems to know about him now. It's the funny bit, but he was the last president to have facial hair, and I respect that.
Okay, so Woodrow Wilson. So everyone on History YouTube hates Woodrow Wilson because they say that well, first of all, he brought back the Klan, basically.
He did,
but
enthusiastically.
But also his foreign policy, which was basically we're going to go into a nation and build it and basically run it until it's good.
There's a word for that, you know.
Imperialism?
Yeah, I also would have accepted colonialism.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not the first American president to do that,
but I think the idea was that this is what that sort of policy is what kind of caused influenced how they handled Vietnam and Afghanistan and stuff. But okay, so now we're getting into the actual things that actually affect me. Mm-hmm. How did Afghanistan, the war on terror, affect me?
Yeah, because these are things that happened in our lifetime.
Yeah, it was scary.
It was pretty scary. Everyone said we're going to get some great protest songs out of it, but we didn't.
Yeah. Well, here's the question: I want to be very careful with how I phrase this.
All right.
Did the United States actions in the Middle East during, for the past 20 years, since 9/11, affect our safety? In terms of radical.
No, but they have, I would say, increased my basic stress level.
Yeah. I'm gonna say inconvenience me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think because if
also he founded the League of Nations and then didn't even have America join it. What's up with that?
Here's the thing: if assuming all the history YouTubers are right, and he is the reason why the States was in Afghanistan and Iraq for
Bush deserves some.
Yeah, but that would mean that if it wasn't for him, they would have gone in, maybe killed Bin Laden, and just immediately left.
Well, they couldn't find Bin Laden.
You know what I mean? Instead of trying to change the nation into we're going to make it more like us.
Yeah.
Which obviously didn't work. Regardless of obviously I don't.
If history teaches us one thing, it's that you cannot hold Afghanistan unless you're the Mongols.
Yeah.
The Soviets tried it. Napoleon tried it. Alexander the Great tried it.
Yeah.
No one can do it.
So So I think that if it wasn't for him, my last 20 years of life would have been a lot less stressful. So I'm gonna say inconvenience me.
Yeah.
Maybe even ruin my not that's too much. Maybe. Well, I didn't like ruin my life would be like, you know.
I mean, I might put Bush there, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll get there.
People these days are far too forgiving of what a complete piece of shit that man was as president.
This guy, Warren G. Harding.
Crooked as fuck.
Did he do anything? No effect, right?
He was the Teapot Dome guy,
Yeah,
right?
but how did that... Wait, well, let's just do a toast.
Frank Langella.
Canada. He was the first sitting American president to visit Canada. Cool.
All right. Well, that's kind of neat, but I don't care. John Oliver, Premier of British Columbia, John Oliver. That must have been funny.
That's funny because John Oliver does a lot of jokes about...
And he's British.
Warren G. Harding, yeah. But no, like I don't know if you watch John Oliver, but like he has this whole bit where he has like a wax statue of Warren G. Harding, and he like, and it's just a funny coincidence that like he actually.
Yeah.
But like I mean, okay, so is that bit funny enough for me to put Warren G. Harding anything other than no effect?
Probably not. Let's see what else we can read about him though.
Well, okay, other than let's see, China. Did he affect China at all? No. Chinese? No. Canadian? No.
Just type Canad and see.
No.
That's all we get. All right. What does he do with these national parks? He visited them. I don't give a shit.
Okay, whatever. Let's just no effect.
All right.
Calvin
he was
Coolidge.
a crook, but Calvin Coolidge, I think, gets a bit of a bad rap.
Really, I feel like most people consider him very underrated.
Okay.
Because they're like, oh, no one talks about him, but because like his whole thing was like being super fiscally conservative.
Yeah, and so a lot of people blamed him for the Depression.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, I feel like most people blame Hoover for Depression, which doesn't really make sense because it happened like a few months after he was inaugurated. Like, there's no way that he could like anything that happens that soon after a president's inaugurated. It's definitely like the previous guy.
I don't understand the economy well enough to go into all the factors. But
I think the way I've had it described to me was that Coolidge, in his fiscal conservatism, removed some of the safeguards.
Oh, okay.
Against, you know what I mean?
That sucks.
But also, how does that affect me? Well, let's think. Without the Great Depression, World War II would have still happened, right?
Probably. It would have happened differently, but it probably would have happened. We don't get blues music without... Well, no, yeah, we do. To what extent are we going to call the Depression his fault? I mean,
like, obviously, nothing is the fault of one.
Yeah,
but then again, you know, we are
if he did a lot of the deregulation that led to it, deregulation of economic things never goes well.
Yeah.
There's a reason these regulations are in place.
But I do want to say... Okay, so before we move on, we're getting into, like, history that, like, you know, my grandparents would.
Yeah.
So we need to set some
With his
precedents
living
here.
memory.
Would you say the communists taking over China, like,
Was a good thing or a bad thing?
like my grandparents starved a lot,
Yeah.
but like maybe that influenced them to come to Canada, therefore making it a good thing? Because, but then again, if China,
They were starving before and after communism, though.
yeah, but you know, like they Mao's policy had a very like I don't think we can pretend that communism wasn't a great.
I'm not a tanky or whatever
Yeah.
the kind of tankies only care about Russia because Russia has white people in it. But I'm not enough of a lefty firebrand to say that Mao was good. Actually, he was not. He sucked.
The other thing is like, okay, so if China wasn't communist and it was run by the Nationalist Party, would that be worse or better? Okay.
I don't know much about them.
Yeah, let me see.
Let's ask Google.
Yeah, let's ask Quora.
How does Quora feel?
Unknown,
about
but probably unlikely.
Well,
Um,
Quora is not always very knowledgeable about these things, but this guy clearly knows more about the issue than I do.
the context is a much easier job in terms of what the historical. You know, we're the comments section is already on fire. Like none of our videos
If
have
enough
got,
people are watching this.
Yeah, we haven't had a single video hit 100 yet, but like this one is gonna just from like all the angry people from either political sides.
Oh goodness.
Okay, so
Are we still on Coolidge?
we're still on Coolidge.
I know some funny jokes about him that may or may not be true. But
Let's just because like the thing is, okay, so if it was unlikely, communist China. Okay, so it made my grandparents suffer. Let's just say that's bad.
That's bad.
So anything that causes the communists to go into power, we're just in China.
I guess.
Let's just say was a bad thing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So in that case, because the Great Depression happened, which had an impact in that it influenced World War II and the results of
Definitely.
World War II.
And it left a lot of... Because Germany was one of the first countries to emerge from the Depression, that meant that Germany was in a very positive position compared to the Allies, which meant that the war lasted longer.
Yeah.
If there hadn't been a depression and the war happened anyway, Britain and Canada and France and all the good guy countries would not be fighting at reduced strength. And maybe America would have joined the war before it was half over.
Yeah. So let's put this at inconvenience to me.
Yeah. All right,
Because the
fuck
thing,
you, Coolidge.
because here's some Chinese history for you. So like the communists win because of Japan, because the previous government, the Kuomintang, which were the nationalists, were fighting the Japan and they were losing so badly and dying that they didn't have the strength to fight the communists, and then they just ran over to Taiwan.
And losing a war is not good for national morale.
Well,
either.
China technically won. But like against
Yeah.
because Japan lost because they surrendered.
Yes,
Because,
but when you are in the process of losing,
Yeah.
that doesn't exactly
That's
fill
true.
the citizenry with
Yeah,
confidence. So that's just going to make the communists look, better because more people are going to support these
Yeah.
guys. Because well, give them a shot. We know what we have now isn't working.
By the way, I just want to say it kind of sucks that I'm saying, oh well, Coolidge indirectly caused the Great Depression, which indirectly led to my grandparents starving. Oh yeah, that inconvenienced me. My grandparents going through really dark times in their childhood inconvenienced me.
Coolidge also looks like, at least in this picture, he looks like Guy Pearce from the movie Lawless.
Yeah. Okay, so in that same sense, we have to put Hoover here because even if we want to blame Coolidge for
The vacuum guy?
yes, the vacuum guy. Herbert Hoover, definitely what he did didn't at all help.
No,
Yeah,
he
and
did
made
not
it
know how
worse.
to handle it.
Which is funny because
I always used to get him mixed up with J. Edgar Hoover and
Yeah.
think that they were the same guy and that in his post-presidency he started the FBI. But no, different guys.
But he actually did a lot of stuff both pre and post presidency. Like he fought to end starvation in other countries. Like he was the thing about Hoover
Alright.
is that other
for
than
him.
the years he was president, he went to China before he was president. And, he saved people from during. I'm not kidding. This guy was Batman. He was an orphan. Anyways, I have this whole thing where I can go
Alright.
up how Herbert Hoover is literally Batman.
I'd read that Elseworlds comic.
Anyways,
Is Elseworlds Marvel or DC?
DC. Marvel is What If.
That's
but,
it.
But Hoover's like Batman. Even like Batman, he presided over a crime-infested, impoverished,
Didn't really
and
do
didn't
very
do anything
good job to
help.
stop it.
Yeah, exactly. But Batman has legions of fanboys, whereas Hoover, everyone hates.
They
him,
say that Carter was a better former president than president. And
yeah, a
I
lot of
guess
these
that applies here.
Yeah, and remember, we're talking about these as in their entire lifetimes, not just.
Every time I put on a sweater, instead of turning up the thermostat, I think about Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. Okay, so FDR. This might be.
I mostly like him.
This might be sorry. Listen, before I rank him, I want to say these things. Okay, overrated as hell. His policy, the New Deal, I feel like is much. Did not end the Great Depression as much as World War II did, and that wasn't
I think they were both big factors.
I don't think no, but I feel like from what I've read is that if you actually look at the numbers in terms of unemployment and stuff, that didn't actually change. In fact, in some cases, it got worse after the New Deal. So maybe if the war didn't happen and the New Deal just kept going on for a few years, or whatever.
It's hard to say what would have happened.
But it did. Well, also Social Security, that was FDR, which is good. Wait,
That's a good thing. Didn't it get taken away later though?
I'm not sure actually, but let me look up Canadian Social Security history.
1940. Okay, so that's looks. Oh God, it's in Comic Sans.
Oh god, the Confederal. By the way, we're trusting everything this piece of paper has to say, even though
This piece of paper in Comic Sans.
clearly made by a student or something. But okay, Unemployment
edu.gov.mb.ca.
Insurance Act, 1940 Family Allowance.
I mean, the timeline looks like it's definitely inspired by FDR.
I guess, but
We never dismantled ours the way they did, but
like this would have happened regardless, right? Like I don't know. Like,
maybe. I don't know.
but you know what? Here's the thing, though. I am still gonna put him into "Pull Me Out of the Fucking Fire." You know why? Because of this.
Oh, yeah. I've done fundraising work for them.
Yeah, because this was founded by Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yes, it was.
And they invented the polio vaccine, right? Okay, cool.
Yep,
Good enough. Good enough.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just that they got it into circulation, they
They
them,
funded it. Yeah,
it wouldn't even
exactly.
exist. All right.
Okay, so pull me out of the fucking fire because I can't imagine living in a world where I have to worry about getting polio.
Yeah.
And all these fucking anti-vaxxers.
There were anti-vaxxers then too.
Yeah, and even now, like polio.
But then they all died of polio.
Yeah, but even now, like I know, like in the States, there are like cases of polios. There are some cases of polio now because of these fucking anti-vaxxers.
Oh my
so
God.
fuck them.
Yeah.
But I am so grateful. Despite everything,
He's
that he founded the March of Dimes.
Yeah.
And by the
That's
way,
worth a lot.
I
He's a complicated guy.
Yeah, I just want to point out something. He didn't. Now historians don't think he actually had polio. They think he had like
Really?
Guillain-Barré's disease. Like I don't know,
Okay.
like
Some
another one.
superficially similar but slightly different
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So he was like,
Alright.
"Oh God, it sucks. I have polio. I'm gonna found a foundation to like cure polio." But now if you're like, "Oh,
If he had lived longer, he would have realized, oh, shit.
well, I mean, he probably would have been like, "Okay, well, at least I cured polio." Even
At least
if
I cured polio.
yeah, even if I didn't have that, it's still a good thing. But anyways,
Now
yeah.
can we cure Guillain-Barré's disease?
Yeah. Well, let me just
Alright.
see what he actually.
Good
had.
for him.
Um,
I like him on most things.
I don't know how you pronounce this.
Guillain-Barré?
Guillain-Barré syndrome or something. But yeah,
That's my
anyways.
best guess. I like him on most things except obviously Japanese internment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But let's not pretend we were innocent of that either.
Yeah.
I like that he was very, very anti-Hitler
Yeah,
before it was cool to be so.
that's true.
A lot of Americans thought he was too anti-Hitler and didn't want to vote for him because of that.
Yeah. And even now,
They thought he was some kind of weird Antifa agitator.
Yeah. Harry Truman. So,
Doris Day.
funny. Okay. Harry Truman.
I hate that song.
I think most famous for
Twin Peaks. He was the sheriff. He helped solve the murder of Laura Palmer.
Also,
He teamed up with the famous hijacker D.B. Cooper, and they solved the murder.
Yeah. Also, like the Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he dropped some bombs.
Of course, historians debate, how much to actually. I mean, like in my opinion, Japan was going to surrender either way because, like, the Soviet Union was also like invading. Like if you read like accounts, they were like shocked at both
Yeah.
the bombs and also the Soviet Union invading. Like they were not going to win, even if they like, and then they were like they actually liked the bombs being dropped because they were like, oh yes, now this gives us an excuse to surrender to the Americans as
Instead
opposed
of
to
the
the Soviet
Russians?
Union because
Oh,
they're like
okay.
because the Americans would still let them have their emperor. They would still like
Yes.
keep them alive
And they did.
yeah, but then they were like, no, if we surrender to fucking Stalin's gonna behead the emperor,
Yeah,
and just like take over in like make it like a.
On
total
the other
puppet
hand,
state.
2 entire cities were destroyed. But aside from
Yeah.
that, I would say that they did benefit from being reconstructed by the States instead of Russia.
But yeah, but also like cities were being destroyed with regular.
That's
things.
true. Dresden.
And even in Tokyo was like firebombed.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't.
It's a war. These things happen.
But what I do criticize Truman for is I think that when you have a weapon that's as powerful and as like visually observably powerful as the bombs, you didn't have to drop it on a city. You know what I mean?
That's true.
You could have just dropped it like in
And-
a forest and something, and people will see it and be like, "Oh shit,
Oh,
we're next."
yeah.
So like that's the sort of thing.
true.
But and obviously like back then,
And of course, this is what directly leads to the Cold War because Russia sees that and instead of thinking like, "Oh, I better not fuck with America," thinks,
Yeah.
"I gotta get me some of these."
and we're still living in that sort of like nuclear fear.
It went away for a while, but it's back
Yeah,
now that Russia has decided to be a
Which-
bunch of jerks again.
it's kind of scary.
Very.
So okay, so how it affects me? Let's see. I am glad that Japan still got to be Japan afterwards, but heavily neutered,
Yeah.
so that they can still give us like movies and Nintendo and
Yeah.
Mario and stuff. But also, if he didn't drop the bomb, if he didn't drop the bomb, my guess was Russia would take over. Like I don't think. I
Possibly.
think Russia. I don't think because they needed an excuse to surrender to America. I think that's what it was.
I
think
haven't
the bomb,
heard this theory, but it makes sense.
I think the bomb provided an excuse for them to be like the safe face because Japan, they're like, oh, we're so
Yeah.
aggressive, we never surrender. It gave them an excuse
Saving
to
face
surrender
is a
to
important element.
to surrender to America. I think if
Yeah.
they didn't, Russia was so aggressive they would have
I
went
think
to fighting and taken over the
America
whole thing.
was much better situated for a land invasion of Japan than Russia was.
yeah,
Even
maybe.
though it's closer to Russia, it's closer to the part of Russia where nobody lives,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they lost. That's why Russia lost the Russo-Japanese War.
right.
It's just really awkward to try to launch a sea invasion from the Siberian coast.
Yeah.
Whereas America is island hopping and Midway and Iwo Jima and places like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was really expensive and a pain, and everyone was tired from the European theater.
Yeah.
They just wanted it to be over, and they wanted to demonstrate to the world that we're America, we got the biggest dicks, we got the bomb.
Yeah, but I don't think that having Nintendo and stuff, which would not, I don't think would happen if, communists took over Japan.
Certainly not Nintendo as a
Yeah.
gaming... I don't know, though, Tetris. Communists made Tetris.
Yeah, but, the Japanese and its, technological
Yeah, the
whatever.
Japanese technological boom of the 1980s
never happens
would not have happened.
if the Soviets took over.
There's something that it's funny that we're looking at that as a good thing now.
Yeah.
When if you look at 1980s American sci-fi, the idea of Japan as a superpower is the scariest thing they can
Yeah.
imagine.
Which is weird, because Japan was, America's friend. I
Yeah,
don't
but-
understand why they were so scared of him.
I do. It starts with an R.
What?
Racism.
Oh, yeah, okay. But anyways, yeah, so I'm honestly going to put him in Inconvenience Me. I think that even though, because
Harry Truman inconvenience.
no, because here's the thing, I Japan was gonna lose, and even though I am glad we have Mario and stuff, I do think the constant fear of thermonuclear war,
undeniably true. And
which I'm currently living through.
because during the original Cold War, I was alive for the last couple years of it. I don't think you were born yet until after the wall, but it came back. So now the Cold War does affect us.
Yeah.
Beyond just inspiring a lot of 50s giant bug movies that I like.
Yeah. Oh, however, without Harry Truman, there would be no Godzilla, though.
That is literally true.
So maybe no, that's not true. I love Godzilla. Not as much as Danny does, but I do love Godzilla. But I don't think the constant fear that I'm currently feeling, if Russia loses, if the war in Ukraine ends and Russia stops threatening nuclear war, then yes, maybe Harry Truman will be bumped up.
But we can only make this
Yeah,
in the
but we can-
context of right now.
Yes, and once again, I know a lot of people actually died because of Harry Truman in the nuclear bombs, but I'm still talking about myself. Okay?
Yes.
just constantly reminder that I'm only talking about how these guys affected me. Okay, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Actually, Dwight D. Eisenhower is a pretty. Okay, so the way
I like Ike.
there are two types of people who like Dwight D. Eisenhower. First of all, there's the super racist, the 50s were the best type of people, and then there are other people who
There are things about the 50s that were the best.
yeah, but the sort of people who are
The things that those people would
Yeah.
vote against right now.
yeah, exactly.
Strong labor unions.
Yeah,
Good social security.
and what I like about Dwight D. Eisenhower is that he wasn't he didn't even though he's a Republican, he wasn't really a Republican.
Well, this is before the Republicans and the
Yeah, yeah,
Democrats
yeah.
became what they currently
Yeah,
are.
he was the guy that both parties are trying to get, because
That
back
doesn't
then.
really happen till these guys.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because think about right now. Could you imagine there being a guy where both parties are trying to get? No, every single person in America, what party they're on. Mm-hmm. You know what party they would be. Back then there
I
was
was
still
so relieved when I found out that Sam Elliott's a Democrat.
yeah.
He did those campaign ads for
Yeah.
Biden. Once in a while in history, there comes along the right man
Yeah.
for this moment. And I'm talking about Joe Biden.
But I think that Yeah, but so like he didn't, even though he was Republican, he didn't undo everything the previous Democrats did.
That's
he didn't
true.
undo the things that FDR put into place because he saw that it benefited America.
Yeah, there was a brief moment when it wasn't just about a game of political football and was actually about trying to get things done and sometimes working together.
And I think that it had to be someone who wasn't actually affiliated with either party before becoming a politician. You know what I mean?
Probably.
So I think Dwight D. Eisenhower was like the perfect person for that time.
But how does that affect us?
I actually think, I think Dwight D. Eisenhower, this is going to sound dumb, but I think even though I just sang his praises, I think he inconvenienced me.
How so?
Because during the Cold War, there was a lot of there was a lot of fear of like Russia, the Soviet Union, obviously, and a major part of it was religious, that the Soviet Unions were like, atheists.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So then Dwight D. Eisenhower was, I'm pretty, like God, in God we trust became an American motto.
True.
During, like, that sort of like erasure of separation of church and state.
He did double down on that, that's true.
And I think that once again, I don't live in America, but I do argue with people, with Americans online.
And that attitude is coming up into Canada and places as well.
Yeah.
This, we are, as Pierre Trudeau said, we are sleeping in bed next to a giant elephant.
Exactly.
No matter how benevolent the beast, you will feel its every move.
Exactly. So I think even though I just said about how much I sort of respect him as like a person, as like a president, and he has other flaws too,
Everyone does.
Everyone does. I do think this is the one thing he did that affects me the most, and unfortunately it's negative.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to move him to inconvenience me. Also, I'm just going to take a quick look to make sure I am correct about that. Okay.
First appeared on the 2-cent piece in 1864.
It was not printed on paper currency until 1957.
Okay.
And until 54. It was approved by Dwight D. Eisenhower to appear on all American currency. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so he approved it to be put on all American currency. It's
very medieval, this idea that, like, money, the authority of money comes from God.
Yeah.
Not we have all agreed as a people that this is worth something, but God says you must trust the money.
Exactly. So unfortunately, he sort of
They live.
intertwined money and religion, and we're still living in that now.
That's true. I mean, the prosperity gospel is well older than him, but he did kind of enshrine it onto the money itself.
Yeah.
Which, that's fucked.
Okay, this guy, JFK. Cuban Missile Crisis.
He handled that really well. I'm not dead. I was born at all.
Maybe pulled me out of fucking fire because
I guess so. I mean,
nuclear war.
My dad has definitely talked with much vivid recollection of how terrifying the Cuban Missile Crisis was, and how well Kennedy handled all of that. And again, far from a perfect human being.
Yeah.
Probably would have gone to Vietnam.
Yeah. He didn't have sex with any women I know, so
Yeah.
I kind of.
That's his business, and
like a lot-
Maryland's business, and sadly also Bobby Kennedy's business. That's gross.
Yeah, so I'd say and I think that's like the main thing because he died, so like
Yeah, and that's that and his death itself are going to be his big legacies.
yeah. Okay, Lyndon B. Johnson.
Not good about Nam, good about civil rights.
Here's the
made
thing,
the
though.
Democratic Party what it is today,
Yeah.
and by proxy made the Republicans what they are today.
So Lyndon B. Johnson. How did Nam affect Canada and communism?
Well,
Like
Lyndon B. Johnson literally grabbed Pierre Trudeau by the lapels and yelled in his face, "You don't come to my house and piss all over my fucking rug." Because Trudeau was in, I guess he was in the States at the time, and he was not pro-war at all, and that's why we didn't go to Nam.
Okay, so we didn't. So that Nam doesn't affect us. You sure? Like no Canadians went to Nam?
We didn't. A lot of Americans came to Canada as draft
Okay.
dodgers. I would say it does affect us indirectly because it is a moment when we chose not to go with America into this. Britain didn't go either, so we were kind of, this wasn't a case of being dragged into a war by Britain, which had happened to us a few times, not just the World Wars, but like the Boer War in Crimea and things like that. And as by this point it was becoming very clear that Canada is no longer a British puppet. Britain doesn't have puppets anymore. The empire is gone. America is the power now. So is Canada going to go with America into Vietnam? And Trudeau kept us out of there. And that was, I think, an important moment in Canadian national identity. Sadly, it was probably also not the beginning of, but at least a codification of our kind of irritating, reflexive anti-Americanness, the way we define ourselves as not American.
I mean, I think, even going back to, the Taft example where people were afraid of, people kicked out Laurier because of his closeness to Taft. I think that goes, way back, maybe. Because, remember when John A. MacDonald, had a painting of himself mimicking George Washington's painting?
He did, didn't he?
I really feel like this whole anti-American insecurity is always a thing.
Well, it's ever since there has been a Canada. Canada is the British colonies that chose to remain loyal to Britain instead of joining the Revolution. That is has been baked into our DNA from the start by definition.
So, here's my question. So this is when Canada sort of. Yeah, because the 60s, Lester Pearson, I know that sort of shifted even further away from Britain.
It's the beginning of Canada, the peaceful nation.
So would that, okay, so now we have to ask, would I be benefited more from current, heavily American influenced Canada versus British Canada?
Well, by this point, Britain doesn't matter anymore, really.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about,
okay, in the 60s, Britain is making sci-fi and spy movies and rock music people like, and that's it.
Oh, yeah, the Beatles. So American...
And the Stones.
I don't know, I like American, media and stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not really about media, it's about foreign policy at this point. And Britain is still a media and cultural juggernaut, but in terms of foreign policy, they don't matter as anywhere near as much as they did 20, 30 years earlier.
Okay, so let's talk about Lyndon B. Johnson's other major thing, which is civil rights.
Yes, that's cool.
Did Canada? What was Canada's civil rights situation?
That is an excellent question. Let's look that up.
First law to protect human rights at the federal level was.
Now that's as early as 1960. So that's before.
So not affected by Lyndon B. Johnson at all?
No. JSTOR, this is going to be a whole essay.
Yeah, but is there an abstract? Nope, no abstract? Great. Wonderful. I'm just going to assume that it benefited me. Because...
Civil rights stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And, because even if... The NOM stuff at least gave Canada kind of a useful foil in establishing who we are.
Even if it didn't, even if it didn't affect the letter of the law in Canada, Lyndon B. Johnson didn't affect, and with his conversations with MLK and all that stuff, didn't affect the letter of the law in Canada. I
want to correct something I said. I said he yelled at Pierre Trudeau and shook him by the lapels. I'm wrong. It was Lester B. Pearson.
Right. So I think, I do think that I enjoy living in a world where, African Americans in the United States are not segregated.
Sure.
Even if it's not,
that benefits everyone.
That does benefit everyone. So now we've had
all. I mean, there's still a bit of segregation, but it's all de facto. It's no longer codified.
And the Voting Rights Act was passed under Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, that's great. He's really good on that.
On domestic stuff, but not foreign stuff.
And that's kind of when the Democratic Party becomes the party of civil rights, and the Republican Party, in the words of a prominent Republican strategist of the day, becomes the party of the negrophobe.
Yes. Nixon, okay. You know how we just said Lyndon... Okay, first of all, okay, you ready?
Nixon inspired a great CSNY song.
You ready?
Go on.
Not even kidding. Listen, Nixon.
This is about China?
Yes, about China. Nixon, opposite of Lyndon B. Johnson, terrible domestic policies, amazing foreign policy, Richard Nixon. If it wasn't for Richard Nixon, I would still be in communist China. I really believe that. My grandparents believe that. He opened up relations between communist China and the West, and in doing so, allowed sort of for the sort of exchange of like immigrants and culture.
I remember once you asked me to draw a picture of him and Mao shaking hands, and
Yeah.
they both looked
They are
extremely
so ugly.
pouchy and
Yeah.
ugly.
Both Nixon and Mao, terrible people.
Sure.
Ugly people. Ugliest fucking handshake you'll ever see. But
You know what?
I-
Nixon's favorite snack was? This was the last thing he had this for breakfast most days. It was the last thing he ate before resigning from office.
What?
His favorite snack was pineapples with cottage cheese.
that makes sense.
He was also big on cottage cheese and ketchup.
Yeah, that makes sense. But anyways, like I
They
was
were
saying,
horrible people in those days.
that's a point against him. But yeah, no, honestly, of all these presidents, Nixon is the one that, just in terms of like affecting where I am right now,
Okay.
I don't think I would be here without like Richard Nixon.
There's some amazing pieces of music I can think of that only exist because of Nixon. They're all about how much he sucks.
He does suck, once again. Terrible. By the way, just while we're on a subject, I don't want to sound like I'm sucking his cock too much. Let me just list off some bad things that he did. This is the worst thing he ever did. He sabotaged negotiations with with Vietnam, with the
Viet Cong?
Yeah, Viet Cong, before he was president. So that way, the person he was running against would not get credit for it, in order to make
man.
himself,
That's low.
in order to win the presidency. Worst fucking thing.
And
he ever
don't
did.
forget Kent State, where kids lie bleeding on the ground.
Yeah. Overall-
There's no place on this planet where peace can be found.
But also, he also got Americans to the moon, so I don't know.
I'm going to give Kennedy most of the credit for that one.
Yeah, I guess.
Before this decade is over, we will have sex on the moon.
Well, he might have been aiming a bit too high. Well, I don't know. I don't know what
You
happened.
can't have
with-
sex in no gravity. Your blood can't.
but also, I don't know what Buzz.
You can't
well,
get a boner in space. It
You don't
doesn't
need
work.
a boner for sex. Also, I don't know what Neil and Buzz were up to, like when the cameras were off.
Well,
Like,
I guarantee there were no boners involved.
I don't know. I think if you
It can't be
re-listen to Neil Armstrong's words, you can definitely tell he's out of breath. Like, this is one small step for
Yeah,
man.
he's out of breath because he's in space. There's
And he's
no
like,
air there.
No, because he's on a cigarette, like he's smoking his. Anyways, yeah, okay.
Michael Collins was watching but wasn't allowed to join in.
Oh, it's the best joke about the moon landing I've ever heard. Okay, anyways. Okay, so once again,
right.
Nixon, terrible person, but unfortunately, in terms of how he benefited me the most out of all these people.
Okay.
Also, Environmental Protection Agency.
Yeah,
that was him.
actually, he was good on that.
Environmental Protection Agency, going to China, opening relations with China, both, and going to the moon. I'd say those are his three main
The
accomplishments.
good ones.
Yeah.
The good things he did. He did some bad stuff.
Yeah, a lot of bad stuff. Watergate, by the way, while we're on the subject, Watergate is just like the least bad thing that
Yeah, I
Nixon
know.
did. Like, I don't even, and that's the thing that gets him. It's like Al Capone fucking getting caught for taxes. Okay?
Yep. It's a lot like that.
Nixon hired hitmen on journalists. Anyways, so fuck Nixon, but I can't.
He hired a hitman on journalists?
I don't think it went anywhere. I think he tried to.
Wow.
But, shitty ass person.
All right. Ford.
What did Ford do?
Pardon Nixon. Watch football.
Yeah, but how did that affect me? Pardoning Nixon.
I think pardoning Nixon, I don't know how that affects us, but it sets a very dangerous precedent that
That's
basically
true.
the president is above the law.
Yeah, and I think that does sort of lead to.
Our current situation with why... If Nixon had gone to prison, Trump would have already probably gotten shivved by now.
That's true. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna say inconvenience me,
Yeah.
which is ironic because
He-
Nixon is the
Now, much like Grant, Ford went on to regret this decision,
yeah.
but
I don't think so. I think
he said that it was his greatest regret as president.
I've read other accounts of him where he was like, it was the right thing to do because, at the time, if we just kept letting Watergate constantly eat up the news cycle, then nothing would be able to happen. Other than that, so I
Okay.
needed to end it soon or something. I don't know. I've heard conflicting things.
Okay.
But now we can finally rank
That's
Tyler.
why he got absolutely murdered in the next election.
Anyways, so now we can rank Tyler
Yeah.
and then. Okay, so let's see.
Tippecanoe and Tyler too.
Yes. So first of all, let's see. Because of Tyler, we got the first person to replace after Tyler was Millard Fillmore. So first thing was Zachary Taylor replaced with Millard Fillmore. That
Straight
goes
up.
up.
I'm going to keep track of these on my hands.
Even though these are next to each other, it's a down. Lincoln to Johnson, down. Okay? Garfield to Arthur, down. McKinley to Roosevelt, up, I'd say, right? Harding to down. Coolidge, down. Even though Coolidge was better on other accounts, in terms of how it affects me, it goes down. Truman to FDR. Where's FDR? Yeah, down. Truman to FDR, down.
We have FDR lower than Truman?
No, Truman's lower than FDR.
Oh,
that's why it's down.
yeah, right.
And then finally, Johnson and JFK, down.
We have 2 up and 5 down.
Okay, so in that case, inconvenience me.
Yeah, I think as a precedent, the idea that the vice president will succeed if the president is unable to complete their term makes sense.
Yeah.
But in practice, it has mostly yielded disappointing results because you get the person as president that you didn't vote for as president.
Exactly. So they really should have just have him be president until
But
they do
you
a new
can't
election.
Yeah.
But once you do a new election, it'll be someone that they
And
they're
calling a
probably
snap
more
election
popular.
is a huge pain, and it would be a lot of hassle.
But okay, so and because Tyler is here, Harrison has to also be here.
I might put Harrison even lower. Fuck that guy.
Anyways, okay, so great, so now we got everything out of the way, other than George Washington, which we'll come back to. After Nixon, Jimmy Carter.
I like Carter.
I like Carter. How did he affect me?
Good environment stuff. That affects all of us, man.
That's true. Also, he did give me someone. Okay, Jimmy Carter has a soft spot. I have a soft spot for him because he's the most powerful man in history to ever be named Jimmy.
Yes.
And not James.
We've had a conversation
Not
about
James, but Jimmy. But
Who's
also
the most powerful James ever? Probably James the Sixth and First.
I'm not sure, but
One of
Yeah.
the King Jameses.
But even they didn't have nuclear codes.
they didn't have nuclear codes.
So I'm gonna put a benefit in me because despite giving me someone to aspire to as a Jimmy, as a member of the Jimmy community, not as good as vaccines, no nuclear war, and allowing me to leave communist China. Okay. So yeah, and also environmental stuff. Ronald Reagan.
Ruined my life. Fuck that man.
Here's the thing.
He's the reason your job doesn't pay as well as it could.
In Canada, really?
Oh yes, worldwide, or at least in all the capitalist first world, as we used to say during the Cold War countries.
I guess you're right. It's just that
Labor markets don't care about borders that much. A little.
It's just that while I do see how, here's the thing. Me personally, my parents have money. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm an oppressed person in terms of class or whatever. So I don't know if it would be right for me to say that Ronald Reagan ruined my life. You know what I mean? Because I feel like the policies that he put in place, while disadvantaging a lot of people, obviously.
No, you're not high up enough on the social ladder for them to help you. I'm certainly not, class-wise. Also, another reason Kennedy is so high, Kennedy made Irish people acceptable.
Okay. Well, I'm not.
Reagan made us unacceptable again.
Okay. So I don't think Ronald Reagan ruined my life personally. I know a lot of people's lives were directly ruined by Ronald
unions.
Reagan. Yeah. Well, I mean, there are unions in my life.
Yeah,
right?
but unions now are not the wonderful force of class solidarity they were. They're now mostly fronts for organized crime.
Okay.
They don't work the way they're supposed to anymore. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't, and that's his fault.
Okay. I'm still gonna put him in inconvenience me though.
Okay, I would put him lower personally.
Just because I'm thinking back to moments to my personal life, and I've always been comfortable regardless of like the influence of his economic policies, which once again speaks a lot to my privilege, and which is basically the point of this. This is supposed to be like a birthday present to me, but it's just me like revealing myself as like a terrible person,
a selfish and awful man.
But also, if we want to get really selfish about it, Ronald Reagan is the reason we have like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like he, took away regulations.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meant it started out as a comic book in the 70s. I think
No. But but like the cartoons and stuff. Like what he did was Ronald Reagan did.
I could live without He-Man and Transformers and all that shit. Ninja Turtles did mean a lot to me as a kid, but I could live without it now.
Okay. Well, maybe if I'm older, I'll like. That's the other thing is Danny's like older than me.
That's true.
So I think maybe like once I'm older, I'll my views will shift. Like definitely, I agree. Ronald Reagan was not at all a good president. I'm just in terms of how he affected me. Oh wait, also
elections are in November.
Wait. Hold on a second. 9/11. 9/11. He worked with Al Qaeda. He funded Al Qaeda.
Yes, he did. Ronald Reagan did 9/11.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. On that, let's put it down here. Okay. Ruined my life. Gave money to Al Qaeda.
Trained them.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan did 9/11. That's the takeaway from this video.
Yes.
Tell that to your cranky conservative uncle next
George
Thanksgiving.
H.W. Bush. I don't know what he did.
The first Gulf War. I don't know what he. Oh, was he? No, Bill Clinton was NAFTA. H.W. I mean, he Father W. So that's a strike against him. It feels so weird having Nixon at the top here.
I don't like it, but it's true. It's honest.
Right. Nixon is awful in ways that are entertaining and feel harmless now.
Yeah. I'm just gonna
in a way that Reagan still is doing lingering damage. Let's read the article, find out a little more about what H-Dub did. Oh no, he did get.
Voting sign was not so it was ratified by Clinton,
but he got the ball rolling on it.
Okay. Oh jeez. Okay, so was NAFTA good for me, a Canadian?
That is a very complicated question that depends.
Whatever the first. Okay, NAFTA had an overwhelmingly positive effect on the Canadian
according to
economy.
whom? The North American.
According to
international.gc.ca. I don't even know who that is.
According to government in Canada. But then again, wouldn't they be? Would they? They wouldn't be an unbiased source.
Who's the prime minister right now?
Justin Trudeau.
What party is he?
Liberals.
What party? Who was the prime minister when NAFTA was signed?
I don't know, but listen, like
I'm pretty sure it was Chrétien. Of course, the Liberals are going to say that it's been good for. And I'm not saying they're wrong either, but we just got to...
NAFTA, Canada, pros, cons.
I'm honestly inclined to think that NAFTA has overall been good-ish.
Increased job losses, increased
not
economic
good for
output.
farmers.
I'm going to say benefited me. Because as we've established before, I do benefit from Canada as it currently is.
Yeah, okay. Right? He did get the ball rolling on that, even
Yeah.
if it was Clinton who signed it and is usually associated with it.
So let's see.
All right, let's talk about Clinton.
And once again, I'm not saying NAFTA was good for everyone. I'm just saying that I think that... Okay, no, nothing for Canada. Let's just put them the same as... Right? Because they both are responsible for NAFTA, which I think is the biggest thing that could
and Clinton
affect
was
Canadians.
Good on the economy. Well, the economy was good when Clinton was president.
Yeah.
How much of this is just because of general post-Cold War positivity?
Yeah.
Hard to say. Would it have been the exact same under Bob Dole? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe not.
And once again, just like JFK, Clinton wasn't perfect, but he didn't have sex with any woman I know.
Yeah.
That I know of. He's still alive. He could be like having sex with like my relatives right now, but whatever.
Maybe.
And George Bush ruined my life. Like,
fuck that man.
Like the past, just listen. I'm like mid-20s.
George Bush ruined this millennium so far.
My entire life has just been fear of like. And by the way,
obviously you can't blame him for 9/11 itself, unless
that's Ronald
unless
Reagan.
You're one of those people who's like Bush.
No.
Did 9/11.
Here's the thing. There is an argument to be made that because of the election, against Gore, which delayed the results, delayed the creation of the new administration, including jobs such as security and intelligence.
There's a thought.
Because of that,
If he had just conceded the fact that he obviously lost the election,
yeah, if he had just conceded,
then Gore would have been able to take office way sooner than Bush was and be better situated to maybe stop it from happening.
Yeah.
And I have heard, and I'm not sure if this is true, but I've heard that, obviously I don't think 9/11 was an inside job,
Yeah.
but I have heard that they were kind of lax in, like, they could have tried harder to prevent it.
yeah, but
They dropped the ball.
But that's the thing about like conservatives is that like they want to cut spending, right? I'm
They
assuming.
inherently believe that government is a bad idea,
Yeah.
unless it's government that is 100%, authoritarian and feudalism. Basically, that's what they want.
Okay.
Government working for the people is a bad idea. Is what they believe.
So now we're officially in the era of presidents that I can remember.
All right.
Obviously, George Bush has ruined my life because
Yep.
the first decade or so of my life. Well, Clinton. Obviously, I was born during Clinton's presidency, but George Bush is what I remember. God, just the whole fear, like one of my earliest memories was I was in school, like literal daycare. There was a helicopter in like the apartment building next to it, and we called the cops because we thought we were just in case that was a terrorist. Like the terrorists were going to like fly a helicopter into a random apartment building in like the Toronto suburbs. You know what I mean? Like,
And I was going to say a second ago that like 9/11. I guess you could say that he could have done more to prevent that, but invading Iraq.
yeah,
There was no reason to do that. It made everything worse. It contributed so much to the atmosphere of just pure global terror that was going on.
anyways.
Let's talk about Obama.
Obama. I don't know, like
I mostly like him, but how did he benefit,
how did he benefit
you personally?
Me personally. Canada.
Yeah, of course.
I love how every time I control F Canada, it's always like 3 has been like a huge outlier.
Wow, 3?
3
Yeah, of course he had his whole bromance with Justin.
for like a year. And the rest are just, okay, never mind. Okay, but like even with
Well,
Justin
only took office in
2015, yeah. So like for literal like a
They
year.
only had 1 year when they were both in place.
Yeah, so it's highly exaggerated. This whole, I swear to God, it was just like Justin Trudeau being like, "I want people to associate me with Obama, so yes, I'm gonna play up this bromance."
I get the
with
feeling they
Obama."
really did get along really well, and Obama famously did not much care for Harper.
Yeah, I
There's
mean-
a time he didn't realize a mic was on, and he
Yeah.
said he's just a large pile of flabbing hair, which is an epic burn,
Is that good? Okay, here's the thing. I will say this.
though.
I will say this though. It was nice seeing Obama get inaugurated, winning the election. Like because like we got like a period off of school to like the teachers pushing the TV so we could all watch him get inaugurated. You know what I mean? So like
That's cool.
that benefited me.
Now here is the question, though,
Yes.
and I don't know how I've seen people ask this before, and I don't know what the answer is. Did he get Harper reelected in 2011? Because a few days before the Canadian election, the news came out that Bin Laden had been killed, and so the narrative that I have heard people propose is that conversation that was then bursting back up on the subject of national security had people thinking, oh, well, I better support the conservatives because they want to actually keep us safe, but they'll make noises like they are.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, so if this is correct, no, I would say Harper won because Jack Layton had a strong New Democratic Party, and I'm not blaming
it's hard
Jack
to
Layton.
say.
I'm just saying that because the vote splitting splits the votes on the anti-conservatives. And I'm not saying you shouldn't vote NDP or anything. I'm just saying, and Michael Ignatieff was also like unpopular,
weak
right?
candidate.
Yeah. So like I wouldn't. The point is that I'm not taking sides on like who you should vote for in Canada. I'm just saying I don't think Obama was the reason for Harper winning.
Although we have been taking
2011.
it as given that Harper winning has been bad for
Yes,
Canada.
yes,
Because it was.
yes.
And if you don't agree, fuck you.
Anyways. Oh God. Okay. Yeah, so, and R.I.P. Layton. I'm not blaming him for Harper getting reelected. I'm just saying
that was the last election in which I voted Liberal.
That's how, what is it? That's how the sort of three-party system works.
Yes, it is.
But, yes, I would say overall benefited me.
Yeah, I think the case to be made that Obama and the news about the death of bin Laden impacted the election that big is so tenuous.
Yeah.
That...
there
is a case, but it's tenuous.
Also, I do think that Obama, if anything, Obama's the reason why Justin Trudeau got elected.
Yes,
and here's the thing: I'm not like some huge Trudeau fanboy, but I do think that Trudeau has been doing a pretty good job of keeping out the Conservatives.
He's definitely a trade up from Harper.
Yeah, and B, I think we came out of COVID pretty well, relative to
on the federal scale, sure.
Yeah.
Provincially, we dropped the ball, but that's
Ford.
That's Ford. Fuck that guy.
And also, people are always like, oh, but he put in vaccine mandates for the truckers, and it's
good.
But also, here's the thing, though. Even regardless of what your opinion on vaccine mandates are, the Americans put in, the Americans wrote they stopped allowing people to cross the border who weren't vaccinated. So you're telling me that it's not at all a smart decision to make sure that truckers were vaccinated, and so that our biggest trading partner would be able to we can continue trade with them? No, it was an economic decision, if anything.
Well, it's also a basic public health decision.
Yeah,
truckers. I want truckers to be vaccinated. I don't want them spreading the plague. They're moving around so much from town to town. If these guys aren't vaccinated, that's a major disease vector.
Anyways, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I'd say Justin Trudeau benefited me overall, despite, not obviously...
Yep. Canadian politics have a tendency to follow on what Americans are doing.
Yeah.
Which has me a little worried. If Trudeau is our Obama... Let's move on with the list.
Yeah.
Well, he wants to be.
I will say this, though. It is so funny to me that Justin Trudeau is running up against a guy with the same name as his father.
Yes.
That's funny to me. Anyways.
Well, the good thing is that, this next election is going to happen after Trump is out of office, so it's too late for us to have our own Trump.
Yeah. What do you mean after Trump is...
Trump has left office.
Well, the previous one was also after Trump was out of office.
Well, exactly. So, the window on Canada getting around Trump...
Listen, but Trump is running again in America.
Oh, that's true.
In 2025, he could be president again.
Theoretically. He could pull a Millard Fillmore... Grover Cleveland.
Yeah. He could pull a Millard Fillmore.
And be played by Alec Baldwin.
That's true. But anyways, yeah. So by the way, if you're in Canada, you don't like Trudeau, whatever, that's fine.
I don't love him.
I personally think that I personally benefited from Justin Trudeau, so it's fine. Now Trump. So here's the thing. He did get the ball rolling on the vaccines, which I think
he also told people that the disease would go away as a miracle. Told people not to get the vaccines, to drink bleach instead.
Well, no, he didn't. The vaccines weren't a thing when he said the bleach thing. That vaccines were...
He contributed enormously to vaccine hesitancy.
But that was... Yeah, I guess that was also in... Well, I mean, Canada, we got, we're way more vaccinated than the States, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I think if it weren't for for anti-vax stupidity being given the legitimacy of an American president spouting anti-vax rhetoric, I think our vaccine rates would have been a lot better.
I don't think he actually spouted. I think his supporters did, but he said...
He validated them.
I don't think he did. I think he said that I'm vaccinated, you should be vaccinated if you want, which isn't
if you want.
But isn't which isn't as positive as you might want it to be. But I don't think that the narrative of him being an anti-vax president is wrong. Is right. You know what I mean? I think that he was booed. He was booed for saying he got the booster.
Yeah, he
got booed by his own supporters.
He was not committedly
so even though his supporters are anti-vax, I don't think that he personally...
He did very much launder their ideas and give them some respectability. Not 100% committed, because Trump has no consistent position except whatever he thinks must be right in the moment.
The worst I would say for Trump in terms of anti-vax, I think, is that when he realized that his supporters were anti-vax, he didn't at all put any effort to like fight because he wanted them to love him.
Yes.
So he didn't like.
And that's what I mean when I say
yeah,
he
yeah.
validated
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
He certainly encouraged them to continue, and that has affected us up in Canada. Also, let's talk about outside of the vaccine. If we're going to blame Bush for just the level of stress and horror we've been feeling,
Yeah, that's true.
then
But
Trump gave me some of the most stress and suicidal thoughts I've ever had.
that's true. Same here. But it's just with that one thing of putting in the funding for the COVID vaccines, I think I would put him in Inconvenience Me, to be honest.
I would put him in Ruin My Life, personally.
It's actually, well, like, if we think about it, well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, honestly,
He couldn't not
But, like-
okay funding for the vaccine. Like,
but
you
also,
had to do that.
What is he as bad as, like, well, first of all, he's not as bad as George W. Bush. Is he as
Debatable.
would we put him on the same stage as Ronald Reagan?
But
then
he
again,
didn't.
Ronald
he only
Reagan's
got
thing-
one term.
Yeah, also Ronald Reagan saying you didn't really realize the whole like 9/11 thing until like decades after. Maybe like Trump, the same thing will happen to Trump.
I would not be surprised. I think Trump certainly gave Putin the
That's
boost
true.
he needed
Yes.
to invade
you know
Ukraine.
What? That's correct. Yeah, ruined my life. You ruined my life.
He was.
Yeah,
you remember
ruined
when
my
he
life.
was blackmailing Zelensky?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, definitely. If it wasn't for because like, and by the way, I know what happened under Biden, but basically the only reason that Putin didn't invade Ukraine under Trump is because he didn't want to ruin Trump's re-election chances. I swear to God.
And if Trump had been elected, Putin would have then invaded
Yes.
Ukraine after, and Trump would have given him a big thumbs up.
Yeah, and Trump would not have nearly, funded Ukraine as much as. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. So yeah, listen, while I
It can there's so many awful things about Trump. It can be hard to remember them.
Yeah.
When you need them.
And also it's good to have discussion than just like putting it. Yeah.
Sure.
And also Biden.
I like Biden mostly. Far from perfect.
He got the states out of Afghanistan. I don't know if that's okay.
We'll see.
Yeah,
I think
that's
getting
a
out of
we'll
Afghanistan
see.
is always a good idea.
Yeah,
personally.
but also that is a we'll see because we don't know how it's going to affect Canada, how it's going to affect me down the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what matters, right? How it affects.
Yeah, how it affects me.
Us, and more specifically you.
Just because it's my birth month.
That's this isn't a list about ranking the presidents in terms of how good they were for America.
Yeah,
that's for someone else.
Yeah, this is in terms of ranking how
That's for the
good they were
historians.
for me personally.
Yeah.
Jimmy. Biden. I mean, he beat Trump.
Yeah, I felt such enormous relief, and that is worth something on its own.
Yeah, let's.
I mean, it's very early to tell with Biden. Like,
Yeah,
we're
but-
halfway into his first term.
I'm gonna put him in. Well, before I put him, what else did he did? Oh, did he do? Like the, and everyone. And by the way, just for you, like people who are aching to like type in the comments, oh, but inflation and stuff. Like, the president is not like the sole driving force of like inflation.
You know
like,
who I blame for the inflation? Putin.
Yeah, like I blame Putin. I blame COVID, like shrinking.
Also COVID. Yes, that's a big one.
Shrinking demand and then increasing demand before supply could catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And I blame companies just straight up increasing their prices because they can.
Absolutely.
Like, yes. So like I blame all of those people before.
I don't
Biden.
think there's even that much inflation going on. I think the companies are just using this as an excuse to price gouge.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say benefited me, just for And by the way,
Also, he gave us the Dark Brandon meme, which is great.
Yeah, just because like Danny said, I was very stressed under Trump's administration. I'm glad
You read some of his books, didn't you? Let's talk about your way of making bets with yourself. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah, wait.
I think
Biden's the reason I have to read Trump books. Okay, yeah, okay. So I'll explain it. So I made a bet with myself that if Biden beat Trump in 2020, I would buy all of Trump's books and read all of them. That was just sort of like
You made
deal.
a similar bet in 2016, also, didn't you?
No.
I thought you did something.
No, I was going to, but I changed my mind.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so like I made a deal that like with the universe that if Biden beat Trump, I was going to read all of Trump books. Biden did beat Trump, so I could put him in Ruin My Life, but
because you have to read all of Trump's books now.
Yeah. But the thing is, I did purchase all of Trump's books. The thing is, I'm still going to wait for him to for sure lose a second time. Because if I read all his books and he wins again, that defeats the purpose, That defeats the spirit of the bet with the universe. So I'm gonna leave.
What do you think Trump is going to call his third party if he doesn't get the Republican nomination and has to run again as a third party candidate? Is he going to call it the Patriot Party, the MAGA Party?
Probably like the Freedom Party or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
The Bull Eagle Party? I don't know. Oh, while we're on that subject of third parties, should we blame Theodore Roosevelt
the Bull Moose
for splitting the vote with Taft, therefore allowing Woodrow Wilson to win?
Good question.
Because like he could have just not run third party. But, okay, for those of you who don't know, after Theodore Roosevelt left office, Taft took over, but Roosevelt didn't like Taft, so then he ran as a third party, split the vote.
Got shot.
Taft, yeah, he was a badass the whole way through. But he's so much of a badass that he split the vote between Taft and Roosevelt, allowing Woodrow Wilson to win, who, as we have established, was a no good person.
That is a strike against him, but I think there's enough good that we have previously discussed about Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
That,
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, now the big one.
George Washington. So overall,
I'm inclined to say no effect, honestly. We're so split.
Well,
the top is slightly heavier than the bottom.
Here's the thing. Okay, so George Washington set the precedent of 8 years max for most presidents.
And we don't have that here.
So, but if we want to, so now we need to judge all these. So, like, well, this guy was in office forever.
This is the main criteria we're going to use. The 2-term limit?
Yeah, so every president...
Not the foundation of America itself, just the 2-term limit is the big takeaway from Washington.
Well, I mean, that's what he can... you know what? I don't want to look at every single president who stepped out of office after 2 terms and see if that benefited. Well, I mean, if that were the case, what would we say? I guess Teddy Roosevelt would be like, oh, he stepped away, which allowed Taft to come in, which would be he would have stayed on if it weren't for the precedent, I think. Before, they made it official that you could only stay for...
Yeah, honestly, I think the 2-term limit is a bad idea. It feels very arbitrary to me. And I think that, as we do in Canada, a prime minister should be voted out when the people have gotten sick of them, not when it's some arbitrary time to leave office.
Interesting.
And eventually it happens sooner or later, but I think it's cool that we can have someone who has, like Chrétien, who just lasts an absurdly long amount of time in office the downside of that is we get guys like Harper, but
yeah,
for as long as we did.
When
does it become officially ratified that you can only do 2 terms?
Dwight D. Eisenhower was the first person to have to leave office after 2 terms.
Oh, okay.
You know what? Okay,
we don't have term limits here, so this doesn't affect you.
Yeah, so you know what? We're just going to look at overall, I think, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22. Yeah, you know what, definitely...
We have definitely more presidents ranked above no effect than below.
And also, I think it is, in the spirit of what we're learning today, the theme, which is that I do benefit from the world as it is. You know what I mean?
And the existence of America
and all. So, so I think, despite all the horrors that have been caused by George Washington, by all of these people, especially Andrew Jackson, who is a fucking serial killer.
All of horrifying things have happened under the orders of literally every single man here.
Yeah, so...
Even the ones we like.
Yeah, so despite that, overall, I am a privileged person. Danny, too, I think.
Definitely.
So we're all awful people, and that's the note we're
in fact, I am privileged because of John F. Kennedy, who made us white.
That's John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy made Irish people white.
Yep, we were not white prior to that.
Yep, and Richard Nixon made Chinese people friends with, communist China, which is where I'm from, friends with the West, allowed me to come here, because after Nixon went to China, I think a year later, Pierre Trudeau went to China, I think. Anyways,
Probably.
it was like it opened the door for like a lot more diplomacy between Western countries and China, which allowed me to eventually come here. And yeah, so that's our list. I think we're at 2.5 hours, so we're not going to go back and recap anything.
Well, a lot of this is going to be cut down.
Yeah.
This will not be 2.5 hours in its final form.
Okay. Well, is there anyone that you want to move? Anyone that I know you really want to move Nixon, but like,
Well,
I can't. He's the only person I'm absolutely sure would.
in
yes, to
in
be
the,
honest.
you know, I want to move Nixon,
Yeah.
but I know that we can't because that's the
not-
criteria we have set for ourselves.
Yeah.
I might honestly bump Biden up to pulled me out of a fire simply for the sense of pure relief I felt when during that like week when we gradually realized because we were still waiting on the results for Pennsylvania and Georgia, but it was looking good, and the sense of just gradual like, oh my God, Trump is not the president much longer.
Yeah, but like, Trump might be president again, you know.
That's
so
very true.
He needs to beat Trump twice before I put him into pull me out of a fucking fire. I'll say that.
All right, that's valid.
Yeah.
Or it might not even get that far. Trump might not even make it to.
I don't know.
If he's in jail or if he backs down because he doesn't get the nomination.
Here's the thing. I don't think he'll be in jail just because the thing that they're trying to pin him for, which is the classified documents thing right now. Biden is also guilty of that, so I really doubt they're gonna get Trump for that. And also, I really doubt that. And this isn't me supporting Trump. I'm just like, this is just my view of reality. I don't think that there's a Republican who can beat Trump. Like, no matter how unpopular Trump is, I don't think there's a Republican who can beat Trump.
Maybe. I mean, Trump still has enormous support with Republican primary voters.
Yeah.
They have not. They have not deserted him yet. But you know, you look at the midterms, and it's not looking good.
It's not looking good for Republicans, but Trump, I don't think Trump will win.
Trump-linked Republican voters did worse than generic Republicans. In
Yeah,
the
but I
midterms.
don't think primary voters are going to realize that. Oh, hey, we shouldn't vote Trump. To
Primary
nominate
voters
if-
are, certainly not always in harmony with general election voters.
Yeah. So I don't think Trump here's my view of the future. I think Trump's going to be a Republican nominee, and Biden, it's going to be Trump versus Biden. Biden's age is going to be a big issue. They're going to play it up.
They're the same age,
I mean, Biden's like 4 years.
slightly. It's
But
They're both very
That's not
old.
going to stop them from
Yeah.
playing it up. And you know, if
I think Biden should not seek a second term. Personally, he probably will.
if Trump is the nominee, which I think he is, I think it'd be smart for Biden to seek a second term because like
Maybe
it's scary to like
having that incumbent advantage is
like the people who voted. The people who voted Biden because they're conservative but they don't want Trump anymore, they're not going to vote for Pete Buttigieg. You know what I mean? They're not
No.
going to vote for Kamala Harris.
No,
So
they're
like
not.
the conservative voters that Biden got to like switch over to him from Trump
Yeah,
like him more than Trump, but they might not like Pete Buttigieg, or they're not going to like a gay
Yeah,
man or a black woman over Trump. You know what I mean?
yeah. You beat him once, you can probably do it again.
Yeah. So, but hey, maybe Henry Clay will come back from the dead, and he already looks like a fucking zombie. So, whatever.
He probably looks even more like one now.
Yeah. And beat everyone.
All right. Well, this
Okay.
was fun.
This
I
was
learned a
fun.
lot.
Yes.
And I hope you did too at home.
I also learned a lot. Once again, Danny said he had nothing to contribute, but he clearly contributed a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that is this video. And remember to like and subscribe and vote in every election regardless where you live.
And
if you can.
check out my channel also at Mutant Museum.
Yes, we'll put that in the description. Okay, well, that's the video. If you want more content like this, please like and subscribe. Thank you.